They can hear that. All right. Hello, everyone. Those of you joining just a tad bit early, we're getting ready to start the live show on a Wednesday night. And crappy weather here in Florida. But let's get on with the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Podnutz Pro. I am your host, Marvin B., coming at you live on a Wednesday evening. Normally, this would be reserved for a date night with another couple in the industry. This was the closest thing I could find to that. I have my good friends, Chad and Stan. How are you guys?
Doing good. Doing well, Marv. And yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. Dreary day here in Florida. Pretty much rained all last night, all today. So no fantastic Florida weather to report. But you know what? You got to have these every now and then to have all the good stuff, right?
I guess you got to have the rain to appreciate the sunshine, right? Yeah. If you want to go cliche.
So how are stuff in your neck of the woods?
That's all right. Actually, it's a rainy day here too. I will confess, it's a rainy day, so I just took a nap, man. I'm waking up, fresh out this nap, ready to talk to you folks here. So that's going to be fun. But, seems like we're sharing that weather along the seaboard here. What do you got up there, Chad? What's up in
it's poured all day. Poured all day. It's stopped now, though. It hasn't rained the last hour or two, but it was raining hard most of the day.
All right. It's not snowing up there yet, is it?
No, that's Alberta and Saskatchewan. But
all right.
Matter of time.
Okay. All right. So for those of you that have never seen this show before, Podnutz Pro is a podcast for technicians, IT providers, repair shop owners, MSPs, anybody that supports business as a part of their computer profession. So some of us are solo tech, some of us have big MSPs making millions and millions of dollars. For those of you that are not, hopefully this show will get you on the path to making more money. And normally I have on anybody from the industry that can help us, whether it's other technicians, business owners, vendors in our industry. These are two good friends of mine that I met. Let's see. I met Chad in a very ominous way. Stan, I met through the ASCAP group, referred to me by Chad. And I got to stay politically correct. Because
How's that van treating you?
And holding up, still rocking.
Good.
So Chad and I met. For those of you that don't know, I don't know if we've ever told this story in public, but you thought that you were going to squash me on a little show that our good friend Corey Fruitman had put together. And I forget the name of his show. What was that?
IT Jetpack. I'd like to put out that it was Corey's idea, the whole battle royale.
Yeah. Well, it was funny. So Corey was with us. We had attended a conference in Chicago. It was the Kempt ChannelCon, and they had made a big effort to get more people involved. They have an MSP channel, and they were like, well, let's get some of the smaller fish in the pond to attend. So people like me who weren't really on the MSP radar, a bunch of us decided we'll go up and we'll be a part of the festivities there. And we were sitting in one of the sessions and we were listening to an MSP complain about how, Charlie Shirt Tail or Ponytail or Trunk Slammer or whatever was just killing their business, and how he was making, 600 grand with 8 people or something like that. And I was like, wait a minute, I make half of that and I'm just one person. So something's not right. And so that's how I became the man in the van. And of course, Corey and I were chatting about that, and he's like, well, why don't we do a contrast and compare on man in the van versus the MSP? And that's how, and you researched the devil out of me, didn't you?
I did. I don't like to go to battle empty-handed. It was fun. It was fun though, wasn't it? Like, it ended up being quite a fun show. I think I had a good time.
Yeah, I think I surprised all of you.
Yeah. What did you learn, Chad? What did you learn?
I learned that just because you're a man that drives around in a van doesn't mean you're totally terrible. That was the that was the abbreviated Colt Notes version.
Oh my goodness gracious. So guys, why don't we do this? Before we get deep into the stuff, let me first ask, how is life going? And is there anything that has been great or bad in the last week that you'd like to tell us about?
Go for it, Stan.
All right. No, honestly, life has been great. There's no real complaints there. Thankfully, that's a good thing. Obviously, I think for us up over here, we would, you guys in Florida where you are, you guys don't care about any coronavirus or anything, so you guys just live freely. But up here in the north, things are a little bit more controlled. But I will say that in all fairness, things have been pretty normal as far as I'm concerned, right? I mean, we're all in the same industry here. I tell people all the time, like, our work has always been this hybrid of a remote and on-site and, that kind of interaction anyway. So in terms of that, things are just kind of more of the same. So you asked one bad thing that might have happened this week. I'm trying to figure out what's a bad thing that happened this week.
It can be good. Doesn't have to be bad.
Oh, it doesn't have to be bad. Okay. All right. Good. Well, that's even better then. Landed a good project actually for a local school district, being able to host their QuickBooks instance up in the cloud. And the reason why I think that's interesting is, I mean, this district has a whole IT department, right? So why do they need somebody on the outside to do this? But their internal people want nothing to do with it. So we're going to take care of that for them. So that's let's share that as a good thing. Landing some government contract that I didn't know was an opportunity, and that's probably one of my. I don't do too much government work, but let's just throw that out there as being a good thing for this week.
All right, Chad, what about you?
Well, I'm not supposed to turn this into a therapy session, so I'll keep it light. No, joking aside, things are progressing. I mean, we're focused on building the wall to keep out those crazy southern people, the people south of the border. We're going to make them pay for it too. The corona situation up here is a lot different, I think, than even where Stan is. It's created an interesting business market. We're very busy. I mean, I'm not complaining about that at all. But I kind of like an industry that has so much change. I kind of like the lockstep we sort of find ourselves in, the cadence that you get, planning budgets, planning future quarters with your clients, and kind of having a forecast. And I pretty much had to tear all that up for this year. I get the strangest requests now out of nowhere. I have a client this week that's planning on sending people home. Now, 7 months into it, yeah, like they've had a couple people working remotely, but they've been doing this whole staggered shift thing, and he basically got a lot of pushback from his staff, and he basically said, enough's enough. If everyone here comes down with it at the same time, we're screwed. So we're gonna half of you are working at home, and the other half are coming in. We can rotate, because none of his people want to work at home. They all want to work in the office. So anyway, so I just sold a bunch of laptops to them. It's like sitting here in October. So one good thing, I guess, is that there's a government funded thing where they're basically trying to help the small businesses called Digital Main Street. And what they're trying to do is trying to get them some funding for, a web presence, or those businesses that relied on all the foot traffic, and maybe not so much of that right now. We're the first approved vendor on the list to help with like cybersecurity and websites or whatever. So I'm hoping that turns into some business. It's essentially free money for the people doing it. So I don't know why it wouldn't turn into something. So
all right,
that's a plus.
Here he is bragging about all his government assistance and government programs and things that get put into legislation up there.
I might tell I'm going to the hospital, guys. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Probably won't even have to show identification, will you?
I'll just tell him it hurts. It hurts. Help me out.
Oh, let's get a full workup.
I'll be getting an MRI and a CAT scan, guys.
Yeah. What he's not telling you is it's going to take him 2 weeks to get in that door, but it's okay.
Listen. You just got to smile nice when you fill out the paperwork and say it really hurts.
Yeah.
They prioritize by how really it hurts. That's it.
All right.
It's all good.
If there's no blood showing, right? You got to just work it.
To be fair, I mean, true story. I had a family member that was sitting in the ER the one night, and they were next to go, and there's a racetrack by me, and they basically started carting people in from like a really bad like pile up crash, and basically it was like, yeah, no, buckle up, you're going to be here for a while, because the guy with the brains hanging out of his head, he's going first, kind of thing. So, which I think is probably a good thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
whipping out a pack of cash and saying
probably should get priority in that case.
It's just it seems like a nice thing to do.
Well, that makes me want to hijack this real quick, right? So I mean, that's one of those questions that you feel like prospects give you when you're telling them how being under contract is a benefit to them, and hey, how you're going to get priority service over other people. And then, I've heard this question more often than not, and I'm going to kick it out to you folks is, how often, how do you prioritize between the clients who are under contract, right? What makes my emergency or my situation more important than yours, if at all?
No, that's easy.
Before we answer, Stan, do you have a process in which you make that decision, or are you?
I want to hear yours first.
I just sign it to a tech, but
yeah. We know how that's working out for you. So check it out. I'll tell you my process, right? No, which is simple. And I always tell people this. I say, if the house is burning down, I am going to that person first, right? And like you just said, the guts hanging out of the brain matter hanging out of the head, right? The intestines hanging out. We're going there first. And most people, when you give them that answer, they're pretty satisfied, right? Because it also makes them feel that and let them know that if they're in that situation, you're willing to even leave a contract client to go handle that life or death emergency, essentially.
We also have, all kinds of peers. Like, I mean, I got you guys, and I got a whole bunch of other ASCII people and people I've met in other peer groups and other industries. If it's truly an emergency, if we truly had 6 houses on fire, so to speak, and, we've got hundreds of people that can't work at multiple businesses, I get on the phone and call one of you guys, and one of you guys will help me out. Like, that's just that. And I tell prospects that I'm like, we have, because one of the things we've been doing is we've been chasing international deals. And one of the problems we run into is they're like, well, can you help us? Like, can you get there? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And we're in 5 countries now. And I'm like, I got people everywhere. And hey, Scully, see guys like Scully there, like, he knows people too. I could call him and be like, hey, I need somebody, in the middle of nowhere, such and such. And he'd tell me who to call. So I could, I can get people on the ground anywhere. And that helps bigly with prospects.
Yeah, it does. And I'll say that, Stan, this was one of those questions that Chad asked me as part of that IT jetpack, as if you have customers crying, who do you take care of first? And can you handle, a multi-crash situation? And my answer is I let FPL help me in that scenario. So being in Florida, everybody understands that if a hurricane comes and hits everybody, okay, somebody's got to be first, somebody's got to be last. And the process we use is whatever situation can affect the most people gets the first response, which is what FPL does. That's what they say is we're going to go and fix the things that could affect the most people. So first of all, if you're under contract and you're a large client and you've got 7 offices that can't work, okay, we'll come take care of you. If there's only 2 of you and you can't work, you may have to wait a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you're under contract and somebody else is not, then you'll be before them. Now, I think the bigger thing is, I don't know if you're asking this part of the question, Stan, but one of the things I think that helped me and probably frustrated some other people is that for all practical purposes, I'm a solo tech. Even though I've got staff here, I've got my wife that helps me in the office. I've got people that come in and help me. And I have people that I can reach out to. I've got about 5 subcontractors that I can call. So if I need to scale, I can. I think that's really what people want to hear is, as long as you're not going to make me wait a week, you know.
Well, the thing is too, like if you've got processes, and I'll admit it's a little easier for me with, you know, Marvin, you got staff and you got your wife and stuff like that. If you were truly knee deep in a pile of, you know what, you know, and you had another emergency, you know, you're with your first biggest client, your second biggest client is on fire, and you're worried they're gonna, like, you know, start getting out the phone book over this. You know, you could have your wife give us a call, or give whoever a call, and, you know, you got documentation. We can at least get the situation under control.
Right. Oh yeah,
right?
I've at least got somebody that can get on the phone with them. I do have other techs in the area that, you know, if I have to send over, even if it's just somebody that I can talk through a process over the phone, I can physically get somebody there with, you know, within a couple of hours. Now, we actually have a question in the chat here from Mr. Scully. Does SLAs make a difference in who you fix first? I know that a lot of MSPs will put together an SLA. I don't. And I just say everything we do is best effort. And
so service level objectives is what we're operating under. So we have a priority list. But the problem with SLAs, in my opinion, are if you're going to truly go down that path, and I have some great friends that are doing this, you have to be prepared to dish out financial compensation when you breach them. And I don't know that it's really, it just doesn't seem worth it with what we're doing. I would sooner just eat it on the back end and, you know, call Stan and have him fix it, or whoever. Like I put a lot, like, I mean, I keep bringing this up, but to me, this is a really critical difference, because if you're a one-man guy or a two-man show or whatever, I mean, you have physical limits. There's only so much you can do. You get sick too. I mean, like, you know, that other thing going around right now could put you down for a while. And, you know, on the flip side, when you're competing against bigger firms, you know, that are coming in, I'm not even talking really specialized firms, just bigger in terms of people. That's what they're going to play. They're going to say that if you call them, you're going to get a live answer. The live answer is going to help you right away. You know, escalations are available. And to play against that game, it's really simple. Yeah, we can do the same thing. We already have our network built. It's not like we're getting out the phone book and calling weird people. You know, if I called, you know, Scully and asked him for a reference, he's not going to refer me to some guy he met once at a trade show. He's going to send me to, you know, one of his partners that he trusts. You know, I can do the same thing with, you know, Rob Ray from Datto, or, you know, like the list goes on, right? That's if I don't have anybody in any of my peer groups in some really weird location that I just can't get somebody to, you know. But I mean, if you see the guys in ASCAP, I've seen them volunteer to drive 2-3 hours to a client if you need something bad enough, you know.
Yeah.
So you can't underestimate the value of that.
All right. So
I was going to jump in on the SLA side. So I'm kind of obviously with Uncle Marv, because at the end of the day, SLA or not, if I don't respond appropriately to a client and they don't feel that they're getting that level of service, then guess what, right? You know, they're going to walk anyway. But I just want to circle back. You know, there are businesses that require SLAs with you, and if they want to impose that, then obviously we have those discussions, and of course pricing is affected, right? I don't think it's in any MSP's best interest to just automatically go and create some crazy SLA situation about what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, because I think at the end of the day, I don't care if your SLA says your repair time is 8 hours. You know, if they felt that the issue should have been resolved in 2, they don't give a damn what your SLA says. So, you know, that's more of I think, an industry stuff. I mean, does anybody here remember having internet providers with SLAs and then trying to collect? It's like, okay, so when did it start? Was it when we made the first help ticket, or was it when you guys had somebody come out to our site? I mean, there's so much gray area in that. You could say, well, our tech started working on it, so therefore, you know, we met our SLA, right? So I just think that's an industry thing, right? That's what we want. That's something that we've created. But I like to go with the Verizon and Comcast methodology, right? Or cable companies. Hey, man, they're going to fix your internet when they're going to fix it. Now, if they take too long and they suck at it, you're probably going to be looking for a new provider. But, you know,
we have SLAs on our circuit. You can get SLAs on your enterprise circuits, and it's the same thing with like a high-end contract, like you were saying. We have a 4-hour SLA on our office.
You can, but it still happens with fiber all the time. Everybody talks about, you know, a 4-hour SLA, but if somebody cuts a fiber line, you know, a mile down the road,
then you're going back at them for financial compensation. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're charging $2,000 a month and you take them down you breach it by 4 hours, if your penalty, it's not really like they almost feel insulted when you tell them they're getting a, $11 credit or whatever it is. I had a client that fought Bell Canada over a T1 SLA breach one time. And I kid you not, they gave him like 73 cents or something like that. It was on a T1, and it was like so many hours, but it was, anyway, they were more angry after they got the credit than they were before they reached out.
Well, but that's the thing. That's what I'm saying, right? That's why I believe that it's just really it's more of a marketing tool than anything, because you're trying to tell somebody, look what we got. But if you're spending $400 a month on a circuit and they credit you for your downtime, you were down for 4, 5, 6 hours, right? In the great scheme of things, it doesn't look that great. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Well, let me throw this scenario at you. It's not entirely SLA, but this is what I just went through. So one of my large law firms was basically upset, and they've been upset for years. Let's not think this isn't the first time, but lawyers, get upset at everything. So they wanted basically to know that they could have somebody answer the phone before 8 a.m. or after 6 p.m. if needed. And I told them, I said, well, when we've had situations come up in the past, server down or somebody can't, have I not, responded in a reasonable amount of time? Because the worst case scenario that I can remember is that it took me 1 hour to get back in touch with them on a Sunday.
Well, that's kind of crazy.
And they were like, yeah, but if somebody can't get in at 7 a.m, I don't want to have to call you at 7 and wait until 8. And so I said, okay, I can provide you another company to assist me. That would be my after-hours support. Mm-hmm. And they would answer the phone and they would attempt to help you. And if they couldn't, they would escalate to me. So at least you'd have a first line of support with a level 1 tech. They're not going to be able to, do everything. They're not going to get into the firewall and, do any rules or whatever. And this customer, I told him it's going to cost you an extra $10 per person at your firm. And they were like, that's too much money. You shouldn't have to pay extra for that. So they went and looked for another company, another local provider, to give them 24/7 support.
I know the number. I know what this
now
is.
Like. So that company came back at $40 per person to give them the support.
The thing is that, so we're at 8 people right now, and I've looked at putting somebody on a night shift, like, so they, for some crossover for exactly that reason. But every time I thought about it, it's a dumb idea, because who am I going to put? Am I going to put my best guy on the night shift and then I don't have him available for escalations during the day when everyone's actually working? Or am I going to put my worst guy on the night shift who can't actually resolve anything? He can just ask people for help. Like, he's not quite that bad, but you know what I mean? And that's what I tell the customers. I'm like, look, what do you want? I'm like, do you really want someone just to answer the phone and make a ticket for you? Will that make you feel better? Because if that's the case, email our ticketing system and it'll reply. You get a nice reply. It's very friendly every time, very consistent, instant. And tells you that somebody is working on this and they will get back to you as soon as possible. So I think that's important.
So we live in the same space but some different spaces. So first off, all clients know that they essentially have theoretically 24/7 access. Humans always pick up the phone here, 24/7, holidays, whatever, 365. And then there's a pertinent question that gets asked when it's after hours. Are you willing to pay after hours rates? Mm-hmm. And if the answer to that question is yes, when we get the email that says this person called, here's their phone number, approve overtime, yes, they get a call back, or their issue gets resolved without even calling them back and then they know, right? So there's always a live human answering the phone from that perspective for me. Just within that window of 5 p.m. to 9 a.m., the set of questions gets asked differently. And like I said, if that person wants to guess what? We do what they need to do, and then they're going to pay for it. It's just that simple. So, contract clients, it's already in their contract, so they already know. So there's no real further discussion that happens. But to your point of your clients upset that you take an hour to get to them, even though you're doing what I'm saying, right? Except you're like, oh, you take too long. Like, listen. We could take too long during normal business hours. Like we just, you get like we talked about earlier, you get triage in the list of fixing your problem, So it doesn't mean that, it's totally different if you want someone to be 24/7 available and 24/7 sitting in front of your computer ready to solve a problem at any given moment. And if they're not willing to pay $10 a user per month for that, then this is a non-starter, right? Why are we even having this conversation?
If we respond outside of business hours, anything out of business hours is 2 times normal rate, 2 hour minimum. If it's a 5-minute fix or if it's 2 hour fix. And yeah, Stanley's got it right. If anyone who's seen my business card, which are very rare, most people haven't seen them, but if they have, there's no cell number on it. You can't call me directly. The thing is that I have a lot of clients who will say it's an emergency, but then they don't want to pay for that, so I just won't call them. I mean, I know who they are. I know them. So.
Well, and that's where I have the buffer of our service that handles our calls, because there's no, oh, well, Stan, I got you on the phone. Let me just ask you this 30-second question, right?
No, they come through.
We're able to bypass that, and it's like the greatest thing in the world.
Voicemails go to tickets, so that's we have basically, it says in the leave a message. It says if this is an emergency, emergency rates will apply. Leave the message, and somebody will give it. They leave a message, and then I listen to it, or I read it on my phone, and then most of the time I go, no.
No, but what I'm saying to you is it's very different when you actually have someone on the phone and then someone says to them, do you approve overtime rates? And if they say yes, there's no more conversation needed when I call and interact with them, right? I just call and go to work. Yep. Versus, no, he can call me at 9:00 on Monday.
Yeah. No, I like your way. Your way is solid. And my way just doesn't require me to pay for a virtual receptionist.
Yeah. Well, we know how you go. So, but and I just want to throw this out there because we're talking about this, and you mentioned cell phones. Same thing here, right? Cell phones not on anything. I had a break fix client that we went in. You gotta listen to this story. This guy had high speed internet. Originally, never did work for this guy before. He finds us through some channel. We go out there. He goes, oh, well, Verizon came and set us up with their internet. So in my head, Verizon, I automatically think Verizon Fios, right? Because that's just what we sell. So I go in and I'm like, I look under this desk. I flat out bust out laughing. The guy's looking at me like, what's going on? It was a DSL modem, okay? Now, the reason why that's relevant is he had cable that was giving him like 200 over 200. Now he's got a DSL circuit. I had him do a speed test, right? It was giving 1.5 megs. And I said, you let them sell you this? He goes, well, they told me it would be comparable to what I had. And I said, but I had him pull out his cell phone. I said, go to this website. We did a speed test on his cell phone. He was getting 50, 60 megs on his cell phone. I said, look at your cell phone speed in comparison to your computer. So luckily he didn't disconnect the cable, set him back, right, hooked up his cable internet back up. I said, hey, cancel this line for this circuit from Verizon, bump out of that, go back to what you had pretty much. And then, when he was paying, he goes, what's your cell phone number? I said, I don't hand that out. The number you have, you will be able to reach me whenever, etc. He goes, well, I just want you to know that since you don't want to give me your cell phone number, if I call and I can't reach you, I will call the next person. And I said, and go for it. Do what you got to do. You are under no obligation to use me. I'm under no obligation to service you. I said, if you feel that I'm not responding to you quick enough and you want to go to somebody else, that's fine. If you would like better service, you can go under contract. This is how much that will cost. I'll let you make that decision.
Yeah, I never let somebody tell me that if they can't reach me, they'll go somewhere else. Go right ahead. But I tell them, my family doesn't get my cell phone number.
Yeah, even I don't have your cell phone number, and I'm still pissed about that. But
I have it. I have.
Yeah, well, you think you have. You think you. I thought I had it too, and then I called.
There's like 5 bat lines, guys.
That's what I'm saying. You think you have it. I thought I had it too, and then the number was disconnected when
we were texting. We were texting when he was in Toronto. I'm pretty sure it's somewhere. Now, that said, I probably didn't bother adding it to my contacts, so it's probably a random number where if I check the message, it's like, here.
That was part of my disposable lines. I have.
Oh, see, okay. Hey, listen, you got the burners. Listen, I understand.
Yeah, burners,
you got.
Yes, I did.
You got. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
No, it's all good.
Actually, no, guys. I think I really think it's so funny because you know, and I know we have these conversations. Look, there's 2 solo people here, right? I mean, technically me and Marv, and then there's Chad who has a bigger team. I think it's extremely interesting from the standpoint of threats, right? And you know, I see this on groups, right? In groups, I hear about it at trade shows, right? People are always talking about, you know, clients making threats in some regard, or asking questions, and how do they respond? And you know, my response has always been, whether I don't care if it's like, I need you, you're the last client like that I have. Like, I've never been of the mindset that you allow anyone to see you sweat, or you let anybody know that you need them more than they need you, in the sense of, I'm willing to give up the farm to service you, right? Or to keep your account. Because as far as I'm concerned, like the phrase goes, the way you set your sails determines your course. So what ends up happening is that ends up just being a situation that just, you know, once you allow that wiggle room, it just keeps happening. You know, they just keep chipping away.
You know, I'll tell you guys something kind of funny. Real quick story. I have this client where they're very small, less than 10 users, and they were on our like monitoring plan years ago, and they left our monitoring plan to go. It doesn't really matter. They decided but they continued dealing with us for print, and so they print a lot. Like they buy about $35,000 a year in consumables. And for a team of less than 10, I think it's quite a bit. Anyway, and I like selling the consumables, and I like doing the printers. So recently, when my one tech was there working on their printer, he ended up making a recommendation to put a FortiGate in, because they were complaining about their internet going out. So basically, he said, hey, grab this other connection. We'll do an SD-WAN. They're rural, so they actually have 2 wireless connections now, but it works great. They're super happy. So then out of the blue, they called and said that by us putting in the FortiGate, we made their other IT guy mad. And I was like, they were like, no one's going to tell me who I can and can't deal with. So we want you guys to, we would like to go with you guys. Do you guys offer that service? They forgot that they were on our monitoring plan years ago. They completely forgot, but they're back on again, and we're happy to have them. Like I said, they were a client the whole time. It's just, I thought, again, at that size, I'm not out there, you know, we're not doing QBRs with clients like this. We're not like, it's just, you know, we offer the monitor patch AV at the low end, slight discounted rate on service. And they've been a great client on print, though. We've replaced their printers a couple times over the years. They do, like I said, I don't know, 100,000 pages a year per printer, copier, and great customer. Love working with them. Always pay their bill. That's my favorite kind of customer. Can I answer Scully's question there, Marvin?
I was waiting to go back to there. So which one? Do you give the vendor tech support number?
That one. I wanted to address that one because I have a really good answer for that.
Well, I wanted to switch that. I wanted to ask you guys, and let me ask you in a little different way. So
Sure.
if a customer, because I think all of us do the same thing. We all sell them, the hardware. We'll sell servers, desktops, phones or whatever. And of course, their issue always is, well, if you can't fix it, can we call somebody else? And my question is, yeah, you can call the manufacturer. I sell you an HP server. If I can't fix it, the person you would call next is HP. If there's a Microsoft issue, you call Microsoft. So they have those tech support numbers because in my estimation, 99% of the time, the customers I serve, I can solve their problems, and there's very rarely a problem that they'll have to go to another tech to get that answer to. Now, there are situations that I know if I can't help them, I'm not even going to suggest that I support them. So let's not, I'm not trying to say that I know every single thing. I know what I know. That's what I support. But if there's a problem with an HP server, calling in another company really is not going to be the way to go. Call HP. and they have support for that reason.
So I didn't take a page out of Stan's book on this one, and it's all about what the contract says. So when we fully manage a client, there's expectations that if it's an all-you-can-eat contract, no one else touches it. Otherwise, we're not covering it, which therefore, invalidates it. Where one problem we actually lost out on about 2,500 seats of Office 365 because Microsoft changed the program. It was always written this way, but they're now enforcing it. You can't have your customer call Microsoft. You have to do the level 1 issue, and then if you're a tier 2 CSP, you have to escalate through like PAX 8.
I was going to say, is that CSP only, or is that all?
CSP only. No, CSP only. So the problem is that, like, I have some enterprise customers, but that won't fly. Like, they need to be able to call and get a support escalation. So I just can't sell them the seats, which is fine. But what I wanted to address with that was Datto. I think I should say everybody. You guys know that we're big on Datto. And one of the ways we engage enterprise clients with Datto is we go in and position it as such that our hours are 8:30 to 5:30 Monday to Friday. During those hours, we got your back. But outside of those hours, if you have a 3 a.m. emergency and one of your critical servers goes offline, you can call Datto directly. They'll get the red team on the line and they'll walk through it with you. And I've had a couple clients where they've actually had to do that, and they're now like for life, like they were, And I didn't have to get out of bed, nor did any of my techs have to get paid crazy overtime. They just took care of it. So that was the initial intent in the agreement, though. The agreement was that they get access to their thing and they can call it in. If the agreement was they have a magical box that does magical things and we take care of everything, then no, then they wouldn't. So, however the agreement was from the beginning.
So for me, there's 2 ways. So I don't get involved in too many situations where we're not handling everything. Right? It's just that simple. That's not really what I go after. I don't really go into situations where I need to augment the staff, but I do have a situation where a client has an internal person that does do some IT stuff, some low level, right? Printer issues, and they don't even set up user accounts. But they do some low level stuff. And I think you got to give wiggle room to allow that, right? Because it's a direct employee of the company. It's not somebody on the outside. With that said, my contract that I had to pull it up while we're having this conversation does have a great line in it, which I think addresses third parties in general. And be sure to jot this down, Matt. You might want this, which is the client agrees that under this agreement, they're entitled to any and all passwords to any and all of their systems, but will not share those passwords with any third parties other than the MSP. If the client shares any passwords for any systems and resources to a third party, any and all work performed under this agreement will be billable events to the client until that situation is fully remedied, right? So that addresses third parties, which I'm going to include vendors in that. But we handle the vendor, right? I call HP up. I call Dell up. That's all part of my value. Hey, my laptop's not working. We look at it. If it's a hardware issue, we call up HP. We get the schedule. Hey, the tech's going to be out there tomorrow. I had a user the other day that had a battery and a fan issue. And like I said, they don't get charged for it. It's covered under agreement. It's a covered device. We picked up the phone, made the call, and hey, the technician's going to be there tomorrow. I know you're there 9 to 5. I told him you're the contact person. There's no interaction. That's, like I said, once again, that's the value. But if the client wanted to call HP, fine. Like Marv said, go ahead. You have the phone number. Do what you need to do. But I'll tell you this. Aside from Chad and his Datto situation, none of the vendors that we're dealing with in that, except for Datto or except for Datto really, would fix something right away, right? So HP is still like, hey, we got a next business day response time or whatever the case is. But if you have to, then that's not an issue. But what I think you really want to do is really protect yourself from unauthorized third parties that you kind of don't know about going into your client environment and then potentially mucking something up. So put that line in there, man. You'll thank me later.
Right.
Sorry, I was going to say Fortinet's the other one we run into where we go in, do an enterprise Fortinet install, FortiGate, FortiSwitch, FortiAPs, and then they require access to it. What we do is we just back up the config and we keep it on our system so that when they break it, we just go and restore it. It's a lot faster, and then we bill the same amount, as opposed to rebuilding it manually. Because it seems to happen, I would say, not every time, but if for every 10 we sell, 2 or 3 times we probably have to go back because they literally just break the routing rules, and it's.
Yeah, but your difference is there, like, and correct me if I'm wrong, like those aren't managed MSP clients. Those are people you sold a device to that had you configure. So in my opinion, those are just project / break fix, right?
There's 3 types of them, right? There's what you just said, totally, break fix. There's then co-managed IT where we're in there, but they still have IT staff and they require access to their own stuff, kind of thing. Or like, it depends. Again, depends on the agreement. We could say it's a managed firewall and no, but sometimes not. And then the third one is we do a lot of Fortinet stuff for other MSPs. So it's actually their clients, and then whatever their rules are, I don't tell people, you could do whatever you want. You want to give your clients access? Great. You don't. Totally cool.
Yeah, well, but I do want to say this. I mean, I wanted to, and the way I crafted that language is, I don't ever, and Marv, I know you have the break glass just in case thing, right? The emergency parachute. Like, I don't ever want clients to feel like they're not in control of what they actually own, right? We all hear it. Do we keep the passwords from them? No. So I kind of want to put the language where, like I said, you have somebody that works for you internally, or the owner of the company who wants to go in and muck around. Like, I give you that leeway to a certain extent, but at the same time, the minute you allow some third party that I don't know about, and by the way, this kind of covers everybody here in the event of your clients asking for passwords because they got some new MSP coming who's going to do some audit and then try to quote them, right? That kind of covers all that in the same vein.
Right. So a couple of different scenarios. You both have mentioned the idea of having your contracts, with the proper wording. And, I've had Bradley Gross go over a lot of my stuff recently, even to the point where I just had a client who is not under an agreement, even though we treat them like they are because they've been with us for so long. They wanted to have somebody come in other than a junior because they used to have a junior on site. And we're
still doing this, huh?
Yep. And we created a special liability waiver for that particular situation where they wanted to have access to certain stuff. The firm administrator, who basically wants to be a tech and thinks that he should be able to set up users and work on computers and do all that stuff. And I'm like, fine, but here's the waiver that you realize that if you mess something up and we have to come in and fix it, it's billable, regardless of whether it was a covered machine or not, because at that point, you touching something, overrides whatever management that we do. And they were talking about, and I put this in there because I get the sense that you might be doing some other research, talking to some other people, because they wanted to have a security assessment done. But instead of having a real security company come in to do it, they found an MSP who said, "Oh, we can do that for you." And it was basically just a network assessment. Right. And I'm like, okay, that's not a real cybersecurity assessment. You just got some other tech who wants to come in and run, something, one of those
rapid fire tools or something,
fire and stuff like that. I'm like, I can do that, but that's not going to, make you pass the cybersecurity test. So we made them sign that waiver so that if anything happens, regardless of who does it, if it's not me or somebody that I send and you break something and we got to come fix it, billable.
It's intent. And this is the thing, like, we won't do a fully managed agreement with a customer like that. They're going to go on like a patch monitor AV co-managed agreement where from the start, the roles and responsibilities are set. Who creates users? Who manages this? Who manages that? All laid out. And then no one's upset. Like we have a client where we just, they had a domain that was provided by their, it's an auto dealership. So the manufacturer had a domain in there, and we had an opportunity to get rid of that and put in their own. We put it in. They have an on-site guy. His title's network administrator or whatever. He's a great guy. He's not like what you guys would call a tech, but he's all right. And no, he doesn't touch the domain controller. He doesn't touch
it. Like, is he not a network administrator or is he not a junior?
No, he's neither. Like his job is completely separate from any of this. He's just the guy that kind of like started fixing computers, and now he like is the guy there. So when we do new computers, like we do like a prep on them and then drop them off. And if it's what we find is if it's an unimportant user, he'll take care of the whole thing. But anytime any of the executives are involved, we come in and do it because he doesn't want the liability, right?
Right.
But again, we have a clear separation of duties. We had another customer that I fired. And I think I told you about them a couple of years ago, Marvin. These guys, I fired them because they hired somebody who was not an IT person, but they called them an IT manager. And I was like, yeah, we don't work with this. So like, goodbye. I didn't quite say it like that, right? But basically, what ended up happening was we ended up turning the whole thing around. And we got we manage XYZ. We manage the network basically, and they manage the PCs. But we have our software on there, and we share our software. It's co-managed, so she can log into LabTech and do whatever she wants really on her site, obviously, and that's cool. And basically they pay we don't include any labor in their agreement. The only labor that's included is if there's a problem resulting from a patch. Outside of that, it's billable. And to be honest, she doesn't call much. Like they're happy. It turned around. It was really amazing because, like I said, I literally fired them, and then they were like, "Whoa, that's not what we wanted." So, and as far as the end user thing. Again, at the beginning, we set everything up. So with Datto, we give all of our IT clients, like the IT staff, we give them accounts on their devices. We have lots of clients with multiple devices. And then they can also get access to the training portal and everything like that. It works pretty well.
All right. Let's do a quick switch here. And let's talk about our good, friendly MSP company, Datto. So any of you got your Datto stock today?
No, I'm good.
I did not, but that's because I have a lot of things going on in my personal life right now. I'm being very selective on the investment side.
All right. So they went public, and first, let me ask you guys this: what do you think of them using the ticker name MSP?
Oh, is that the ticker?
Yeah, I thought it was clever. I thought it was funny. It ruffled some feathers, but they have one of the most comprehensive solution sets in the whole channel. They have a PSA, an RMM, a backup solution, cloud backup, cloud storage, file sync and share. I mean, networking, everything.
Kudos to them for doing it first. I mean, it's not like it was privileged to anybody. So,
no.
All right.
So I didn't realize today was the day. I mean, I got the email. I didn't pay attention. I mean, look, what's the range? So today, I think our buy-in was able to be at what, $27, right?
Yeah.
So it closed at 27.10. You hit 32.36. So somebody made some money today, right? I don't see what the volume is right now, but I mean, I'm just peeping. Look, I'm just going to tell you guys, I don't personally believe that enough people know what they do. I mean, look, I hate to say this, but we could all make our companies public if we wanted to, but I don't know what the long term is going to be. I mean, 15 million shares exchanged? Is that? Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. That was the volume for today. So I don't know. I think,
we don't have the market cap to go public. I mean, it's
not even about having, look, I mean, what I'm just saying is, look, let me tell you something. Datto can't get their billing right, okay? I mean, I hear people were complaining about billing and all these other things. I'm just going to just put it out there. I use the product, right? I mean, I'm logged into my Datto portal right now, checking some stuff on the SaaS side. But I'm just going to be honest with you. I think this is a way for certain people to be able to cash out, and that's what they want to do, and that's fine with me. But I think Datto has plenty of internal things to fix. Such as, the ongoing complaints that Chad keeps denying that plenty of MSPs have with their support team. So remember that whole thing we talked about, like, hey, remember what we were talking about how we want like a live human on the phone? But we don't just want a live human on the phone, right? Just like our clients don't. We want a live human on the phone who's going to solve our problem. Right. Yeah. So when you're just directing me to a KB article all the time, right. That starts to change the taste buds in my mouth. And what I'm saying is if I thought it was just me and I was just this lone wolf. But as I see in the community, plenty of people are complaining about that. And Chad, you can have your partner, your higher level partner.
Tech. You just
That's fine. Yeah. So, but what I keep telling people, and this applies for all of us as well, right? You can't try to tell me that I need to spend more money with you to get support. That you can't do that.
Well, I have more money anyway because the price of storage keeps going up. So we're already paying more.
Yeah, and remember, and I've said this before, Datto positions itself as the premier product. Right. Okay, that's okay, and I'm okay with premier pricing. You just got to give me what comes along with it.
You got to give me premier service to match.
That's it. So, and I've had plenty of service issues, and I'm that kind of guy. Like I've told people have heard me make noise. I know plenty of folks over there, but I don't like to call anybody, right? I don't want to call in for support. So when I do call in, this is like a real issue, and it's something I need resolved. Okay. Look, I remember working with another MSP that sells way more than me and way more than you, Chad, right? And they were still having issues, and it took support 3 weeks to resolve something. It's very hard for me to go to a client who's paying me for service and then tell them like, well, the vendor that I use took 3 weeks to resolve this issue, so you haven't had backups in 3 weeks.
No, see, that's but I don't know. See, I have a couple issues, like, I know what your issues, Stan, and I know you're bitter, and you also know, like, the first time that was an issue, you could have messaged me and I could have helped you out with that, but you don't want to do that.
This is my thing. I don't think that anybody who pays somebody for a service should have to go like through people they know to get things done. I believe that if you're going to charge me this, then anybody, I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's the guy with a single Alto 3. If he's paying your higher rates or whatever compared to Veeam and some of these other folks, that they should get the service that they're paying for. That's all I'm saying.
I hear you, but out of all the other vendors I deal with, I have to do the same damn thing, except I get better results doing it at Datto. So I can't think of any vendor where I get like look at Podnutz's a good example. At Podnutz, if you want to get special treatment, you need to have an NSC 7 on staff. What's funny about that is that because you have an NSC 7 on staff, your company doesn't get the support. Only the NSC 7 does. So if your NSC 7 leaves, too bad. At our company, if I don't have I have one NSC 7. If he doesn't open the ticket, then we don't fast track to level 2. It's just like anybody else.
So here's my question, Chad.
Yep.
So you said to get special service. I think what Stan is saying and what I'm going to be saying is I'm not looking for special service. I'm just looking for regular service.
Yes, I know, but I know. No. See, but that's the problem. See, Stan is a smart guy, and Stan actually knows what he's talking about. But the number of people who call in with very basic issues dictates the need for all those level 1 people. And what Stan wants is he wants to call in and say, hey, I'm not a dum-dum. Please send me to level 2. That's what you really want. I mean, that like I get what you're saying, but that's what you want. And what I'm saying is with Podnutz, that's what happens. You skip level 1 and go to level 2 when you're in.
Well, but if it's okay. So if it's, I mean, because I call in and there are certain things that look, level 1s can help me, and if they can, that's fine. But if I already know that I've been to the KB articles,
and don't direct me there.
Don't redirect me. Listen to me when I tell you I've already tried this. And you move on to
I'll give you an HP example, right? Yep. I'm an HP partner, Marv. I think you are too.
Yes.
I call HP. The minute I say I'm a partner, the person who might be, I hate to sound like this, but the person who might be sitting in India or somewhere else overseas says, hold on a second. They redirect me to like Texas to the HP business support line. Okay. And that person always does what we need them to do. So when I call Datto and I say, hey, look, I have this particular issue. I did A, B, C, D, and E. At that point, to Marvin's point, level 1 should go, I'm not dealing with someone who's an idiot. It seems like they've tried the things that I will tell them to try. let me kick it up to the next level. See, that level 1 person is also supposed to be kind of receptionist and filterer, right? And they go, okay, this person didn't do these things. Let me kind of walk them through it. And then but now I've had the issue, and Chad, you've heard, where these people have told me to do things that are not the solution or that have created bigger problems. And people are like, who told you to do that? Well, why don't you go look in the ticket 3 days ago where your level 1 technician told me to do this. And I did what he told me to do, and now we have a bigger problem because I listened to your support. So that's a problem.
That is a big problem. But what I usually do, so okay, if you didn't have, before we had a blue guy, what you would do, and if you didn't know me and whatever else, you basically can email the escalations I can get the email address if anyone cares, but you can email that with a ticket number and say, hey, Jimmy here is doing some weird stuff. Get me somebody else, somebody better. You don't want that, but I'm saying that you got to treat that level 1.
I understand, but okay, but where are we at? See, and this is where I love arguing with you about this, right? Chad, at the end of the day, you're telling me to do more work. I don't want to do more work. I want the vendor to do work on my behalf. That's why I'm paying you a premium. If I want to do work, then why don't I go into Azure or somewhere else, launch my own backup solution like some people do, right? Some people use these other applications. And then guess what? I don't have to rely on anybody, but I'm willing to pay extra to not have to do that. But you're telling me it doesn't matter what I'm paying. I'm supposed to do that. And I'm telling you that this is the problem with the industry, that we let and I'm going to say this, and you might have to mute me after this. No, we let vendors shit on us, right? And we shouldn't.
You said it. You said it, man.
We're literally like an abused spouse. Like, you should not allow the vendors to treat us. They need us more than we need them. I don't care what anybody says.
You know what's really interesting about this? What's really interesting is you guys, and I'm lumping you guys together on this, even though Marvin hasn't said anything about this. You guys are stuck in this. You guys are stuck in this senior tech mentality. The thing is, what you're not considering is who typically calls in. It's the same thing. No, I get what you're saying, but the thing
you're missing it. You're missing it because you're not as they. They have to triage.
That's the problem.
Your level 1 has to triage. What I'm telling you is they can't triage. No, they don't know how to triage. If your nurse in a hospital can't triage, then you're freaking the guy from that racetrack with his head, with the guts hanging outside of his head, is sitting in the emergency room. And you and Chad, you that has a sprained ankle, is walking in the back and getting treated when the guy is sitting in the with his freaking brains on the ground.
Okay. Here's
what
the
I'm talking about.
Here's the thing. Add data, and this is all specific to data, right? This whole conversation. Add data. If you say server down, like when you call server down, that guy's not allowed to talk to you. They immediately put you over to the red team. He's not allowed to talk to you.
But do you understand that not backing up to me is equivalent to server down?
And that it's not to them. I understand where you're coming from with that. I do. And like I said, I
was asking, if we have a server that hasn't backed up in 3 weeks, do you not think that's equivalent to server down? In fact, I think it's worse.
Why did it take 3 weeks to catch it? That's the problem. So like, why did
look, I'm giving you an example. Who you know who I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about.
Right? You know what I'm talking about. No, it took data over 3 weeks to figure out what was wrong and why this wasn't backing up properly.
See, but the thing is, after 48 hours, I would have already had it escalated. Like you escalate it. Like the thing is, if they're not escalating or triaging properly, like tell me this: if you're sitting there and you're bleeding out in the ER. You're not just going to sit there and bleed out. You're going to get up and you're going to drip your brain guts all over the nurse's desk and be like, you son of a bitch, my brains are leaking out of my head.
You're missing something. But guess what?
Here's the problem, though. You can do that. And if the nurse just looks at you and says, you're going to have to wait.
But you know what you're missing, Chad? You know what you're missing? You know what happens in the ER? You're physically there. Right, so I open up the ticket with Jimmy Boufflé. All right, I'm making up a name, and then 8 hours later, That person is not there anymore. Right. Now I'm dealing with somebody else. Yep. And look, I'm just going to tell you this. When I talk to people who work at Datto and tell me, I understand your frustration, I have heard this from many partners. Chad, you ain't got no leg to stand on right now. Right? Because what I'm telling you is they know there's a problem. Now, I don't know how to solve it. It's not my job. I don't get paid. All I'm telling you is, in my opinion, we're talking about the company is now sitting on as a public entity, right? I'm just telling you that if they're going to now have to prove numbers and do different things, I'm telling you that they need to focus on this so they don't lose people like me and Marvin or you. It can happen. Look, I know people who spend more money than you who have countless problems. I'm just telling you, right? Who literally complain about the same thing I'm saying. The thing is, they have to just make sure, and hopefully this is to help them inject cash and maybe do this. They got to just do something with it. That's all I'm saying. I know, that's it.
The thing is, I agree with you. Like, just to be clear, I agree with you with the level one problems. The difference is that rather than complain about the issues, what I've done is I've taken a more proactive approach on telling my team they're not allowed to just sit there and email in a ticket and let it sit there. Oh, my guys love that. They love to open the chat and then just be like, oh, well,
dude, wait. Let me stop. Let me. I gotta stop you. I wanted to let you know something. When I have an issue, I don't send tickets. I pick up the phone and call. So I'm not talking about your guys, right? I'm talking about me. Wait, go ask the people you and I both know at Datto, and they will tell you I'm a freaking pain in the ass because I will rattle every cage, right? But my thing is, all I'm saying, thanks, bro. I see your message. My thing is, at the end of the day, it's simple. I don't believe that if a new person signs up to Datto today, buys a 40 terabyte device. I'm just giving an example. They shouldn't have to know all the people in Datto to get their support issue rectified. That's all I'm saying.
Apparently, all you have to know is the phrase "server down." So,
well, I'll try that next time and tell you how it works out.
Yeah, we'll have to circle back on that. But here's the thing. Aside from level one, okay, we know that, as much as they have done good to make their brand better, by adding Autotask and doing that, they still have missed out on some of the core features that made them great to begin with. And I've been a Datto champion, even for the little guy. I've got enough devices that I can say, look, I'm not just some schmuck who's got a couple of Altos. I've got some pretty big Cirrus out there, and I've committed to them. But I'm in the middle of, I'll tell you, here's where I'm at. I've actually already done 2 evaluations with other companies because I am now looking at the possibility of moving away from Datto. Chad, hold your blasphemy comments, okay?
I can't help you with where you go, buddy, when you have these problems. You realize that, right?
I haven't called you for help ever, have I?
I figured you haven't had any problems. I've offered. If you had a problem, you'd let me know.
Yep. So, but I mean, I've had little issues and I've had to call in, but in terms of pricing I've got customers. There are too many other options out there where they can get unlimited backup and storage and stuff. And, of course they roll their own hardware, where I've had specifically one customer that I'm looking at. I've got the 2 Cirrus 12 terabytes. They're not huge, but for this customer, they're paying $1,000 per Cirrus for their backup. And they know that they can get somebody else to do it for half price.
But it's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing. When you go and restore and your restore don't work, what are you talking about, man?
Here's what I'm looking at. I sold them on the fact that Datto is the Cadillac of backups, where I can do all these things. I can spin up their server in a VM if I have to, which I've done. I can, whenever there's a hurricane, Datto in their van, does an announcement that they're coming to Florida with backup devices if we need it. They love that. But if we can find, and I'm looking at them, other companies that will do 98% of what Datto does and go half price, it's not a huge amount of money, but
it's a 90-10 rule. It really is a 90-10 rule. You could probably get 90% of the functions, but for me, those last few are important, like service validation and being able to run scripts pre and post screenshotting and being able to validate, actually put the automation in. Like that stuff's huge.
It is, but
also the flat rate.
Well, this is no. I think where Marvin is, and I think we got to note this, right? I think this is important. So, because I heard that last bit that Chad was too busy talking, he didn't hear you, which was
having
the fact that
he's trying to do.
You can have more than one vendor and pick the vendor based on the client.
No, that's not standardization. That is blasphemy.
No, well, listen, you can listen to all the books you want. Look, I remember talking to an MSP. I remember talking to an MSP that had 3 different options for VoIP. And he said, we can have our own 3CX, we have this company and that company, depending on what the client's needs were. And I think that's very important to talk about, because there's a level of sometimes we're like, this is what it is, that's it, there's no one else to talk about, when it doesn't hurt at the end of the day, to potentially have your options open for other vendors to plug them in if that's necessary, or to help you win a deal. I mean, Chad, have you won every Datto deal? You tell me you haven't lost any deals to Veeam or any of these other guys?
Chad's 100%.
I lost one. No, I'm still sore about this. I did lose a deal to another Datto partner, and I have run his name through the mud every time I get a chance. I'm not doing it on this show, but every time I talk to anybody at Datto, I'm like, so how's so-and-so doing? Is he still selling Veeam instead of? Yeah, no, I lost a deal. It was a 36 terabyte unit, and they basically told the customer that they do Datto below 10 terabyte, Veeam between 11 and 40, and then Commvault above that. The thing is, and I mean, like I'm teasing you guys a little bit on this, but I'm serious at the same time. You guys are smart guys. Obviously, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. You can learn stuff fast. You can pick up on stuff. Maybe you can support a couple different vendors in each segment. I don't know. I'm not making that judgment. I'm telling you right now, though, training a team to support that is a joke. So if you're going to provide support on something, no, you pick one thing. I don't care what it is. You guys know Fortinet screws me over constantly on the business side, and I constantly complain about them. But I've got guys certified on it, and they do have the best security, setup right now. So I've been sucking up. Although I do call Stan constantly and ask him how much he's loving Meraki. I think that's what, a weekly thing now we're doing, the weekly Meraki.
Yeah, I mean, you and another friend of mine who's a Sonic Wall shop, same thing.
But at the same time, but I'm still sitting over here with, I don't know, we got 150 48s out there or something. But my point is, it's a scale thing. And if you guys don't want to scale, do whatever you want. It's cool. When it was just me and Ryan, it was the two of us, we could get away with that too.
But here's my thing, Chad. I may be looking to scale, but I may not want to scale with Datto.
No, and that's the thing too. But whatever you're going with, you need to pick a horse, and you need to, or pick a cart rather, and hitch your horse up to it. And just,
but Chad, yes and no at the same time, right? Dude, we are all constantly seeing people asking questions about other vendors all the time, right?
True, yeah.
Even you have shifted your RMM, right?
Still there complaining.
But we talk. But what I'm saying is, there's nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't think there's anything wrong with moving. I don't think there's anything wrong with constantly reevaluating and just making sure that we're all getting what we should get. Look, Fortinet is kind of raking over the coals, so you're looking at potentially other vendors. The thing is that there is no end all be all. And by the way, the same way that clients deal with us. No, you're good for right now, but you may not be good next week or a week from now, a month from now, or a year from now.
Just to be clear, it's not that you can never change. It's that, the RMM one's a good one. Every 3 years, someone's contract's up and they're talking about switching vendors. And people change RMM vendors like they change toilet paper. Whatever's on sale that week, they buy it. The thing is, I'm at 8 people. I get it. I'm bigger than you guys in employee count, but I'm still small. When I talk to the 25, 50, 75 employee guys, they're like, no, man, you don't change like that. That is a big deal. You can put a capital expense to how much you're going to have to spend on retraining all of your guys on solution.
True. But if something happens and something blows up and they have to change, they have to know what's available in the market should that come up. So that's where you know me. I don't change.
Well, so on that note, I constantly keep my evaluations up on the backup side so that I can sell against it. How the heck am I going to tell someone they shouldn't buy Unitrends if I don't know how Unitrends works? That just doesn't make any sense to me, right? So I hear you on that, but the problem is grass is always greener until 6 months from now when they burn it. That's been my experience. Wherever you go, it's going to suck at some point.
Well, every time you go looking for a new house, it's always going to look in the best condition. The grass is perfect. The walls are painted,
Yeah.
So I get that.
But go ahead. I'm sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
But at the same time, there are real problems to be considered. I'm not saying that I'm going to jump ship, but I am looking.
Well, and what I want to say is, I honestly believe, and I've mentioned this before, what we're talking about as it relates to Datto, in my opinion, is we just want something to be where it used to be. That support wasn't like that. It was right. Better. So I'm not asking for something new out of this company. I'm asking the company to return back to where it was in how they treated us. I mean, look, I'm not going to say treatment is bad, but I mean from a support standpoint. Believe me, anytime you need a salesperson, you can get them on the phone in half a second, right? There's never a problem on the sales side. But I'm just asking to have the same experiences with support that I've had in the past. That's it.
The problem is, I honestly don't think that'll ever happen, because the thing was, they were a smaller company. Like when I used to go down Norwalk and I'd go walk around and talk to the engineers, you'd see the same engineers and the same support people. They're just big. Like they have the partner count is huge too. Like they're just a bigger company, and that's where that low level one stuff comes in.
Well, let's do a shift, and let's not throw all of this on Datto, but have we not had that happen with other companies? SolarWinds is another company that has been going through growing pains. They went public, and people are complaining about their support, and they are.
Do any of you guys have an example of somebody currently today, like Lenovo's poo-pooing on us? Fortinet's gone up market. Like all the vendors are.
Well, what do you mean? Look, I can only talk about what I do.
I think all vendors, as they get bigger, start to do the little corporate thing where they're cutting corners here and there, and they're not worried about the fallout if it makes their numbers look better. And we're in a period right now, and I'll say this, and some vendors are going to hate me for saying this, but part of it is the Rona, where a lot of people have bailed, cut back on contracts, stopped service because of whatever reason, and they're in a full sales frenzy right now. But they have not beefed up their back end. And that's what's hurting us more than anything else. I don't need vendors calling me that I've already talked to and told them, look, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm here, I already use your product. Do you not know that? I don't need salespeople to keep calling me. I need a support person to take care of my issue when I need support. That's a very basic principle.
And what I want to say to that, and I want to just jump in real quick, I continually pride myself at not needing to call support, okay? Regardless of vendor. Okay. So, where hopefully I can handle everything. The only thing, look, if I want to talk about vendors, I got, I do HP for servers and workstations, always business grade everything, right? 3-year warranty, next business day on site. There's few of them where I have 4-hour response times, right? I use SolarWinds. I can honestly tell you, I've reached out to SolarWinds support probably 2 times in my life. Okay. I have Datto, right? Datto's in the stack, right? Where I use our regular BD, backup continuity service. I use their SaaS product, right? Backupify. And then here's an example, Microsoft for 365, right? Through PAX 8. I've never actually needed to call anybody. I use Proofpoint for email. So I'm just kind of giving you my stack, right? Yeah. The most interaction that I've had, I'll say, is between Datto and potentially HP. But that example I gave you earlier of an HP computer being resolved, it ended up that computer had a 3-year mail-in warranty, and HP says, because of what's going on, we're not doing mail-in, and we will send someone on site to fix this problem. That was great.
That's good.
That's not a vendor shitting on me. Excuse my language. I did it again. Right? You know, that's not a vendor, right? Crapping on me.
Here's the point. The point I was trying to make though is that if
I use Meraki, Cisco support is great. I try not to. I mean,
I basically look at it this way. I'm not trying to set the rules of the game. I want to learn how the game works, and then I'm going to play the game to the best of my ability. So like with Datto, you go through your salesperson, you got your partner success manager. You have a problem, you leverage those people. Be like, I'm not buying any more Dattos if you don't help me. Oh, they'll help you. Then on the support side, you have your ticket in there. You don't like how it's being handled. After a period of time, there's a button in the portal you can actually click. But if you don't want to wait that long, you can email the support thing. If anyone doesn't have that email address, I'm happy to send it to you. Just ask me for it. You can email that and be like, this is my ticket.
Okay, but Chad, hang on just a second. All the stuff that you're saying, I'll speak for me. I know that stuff. However, I didn't have to do that much work to get that support. I think that's what
I don't see it as a lot of work, because I see spending more time spinning wheels of a level 1 guy is not resolving the issue.
But here's the thing. I think before, I think you did say it in the beginning, maybe because they were smaller.
Yeah.
They didn't have as many level 1 people as the gateway to get to the support. So
100%.
I mean, that may be part of it as well, because I remember in the beginning when I did have issues, I would call. The first person I called stayed on the phone with me and worked with it and got it up and running, went in and did stuff and didn't point me to a KB article and all of that stuff. So I think from both standpoints, both you and Stan are coming from very valid positions.
But here's another thing, like on the training side.
Chad, I never call HP, and I'm sure I don't know how Lenovo is, right? Because I know that's your terrible. I never call and get off the phone without a resolution to the problem.
I've had a part back ordered for 2 months on a next business day warranty machine. In fact, we're an ASP, so we can do our own warranty work, and the part's back ordered for us. It's horrible.
But no. What I'm just telling, I can only talk about my own experience. But if a part is back ordered, that's a different thing. But there's a solution to the problem, and guess what? They just have to get it, whether it's a shipping issue, whether it's an overseas issue.
A crashing issue once. It took a month to resolve. There was a lot of back and forth. They were working on it, I guess. Here's the thing. My thing with Datto, and the reason why I have so much respect for what they're doing, is I see the things they're doing. Like I don't know that. Hopefully, this is
man, you got to settle down, man. Your mic's off your head.
Where's the new button?
He's got me. This is like a presidential debate right now.
Worse than that.
Come on, man. Shut his mic off.
Here's the thing. Here's an example, okay, guys? This is an example of something Datto does. When they hire new people, they hire them for support. They hire them in batches. They hire like 10 or 15 of them at once. I don't know how many are going to work out, but that's how many go through their boot camp. They have a training boot camp they have to do. When they come out of the boot camp, the last step of the boot camp is they get an experienced partner on the phone, like virtually. They sit in a classroom. I've done this a bunch of times. They sit in a classroom and they got us on the screen, and I'm supposed to tell them all the things they're going to do wrong so they can try to do them right. And they actually this. I've never seen any other vendor do stuff like this. It's just, sure, everybody's not amazing. I get it, but they really do try. They really put the programs in place, and I haven't seen another vendor try as hard.
All right, guys, I think we're going to need to do this. We're going to need to take a break because I gotta get you guys calmed down and get some control back to this show. So here's what we're going to do for the live viewers. Stay on. We're going to come back after the break here. And for the regular listeners on the audio podcast, this will end part 1 of the show. I want to thank you for downloading and subscribing to Podnutz Pro. We may or may not post up part 2 of this debate. I'm sorry, this podcast, depending on what happens after the fact. But of course, always go and support us for anything related to the show. Head over to podnutz.com, look up Podnutz Pro. I'll have everything in the show notes. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Look for Podnutz Pro, like the pages. You'll get notified when we go live or when we have any other videos here. And I see what you guys are putting in the chat there. So That's going to do it for this episode. If you are live on the stream here, just stay with us. We'll be right back after this. And for everyone else, until next time, holla. Hello, everyone, and welcome to part 2 of the 2020 debate series on Datto and the vendor community. And we are joined by two, I would love to call them dear friends, but you know, after a night like tonight, if you have not gone back and listened to part 1, you need to make it to the end where I thought I was going to see foam coming out the mouth and hair plugs coming out and all sorts of things. But ladies and gentlemen, Podnutz Pro is a tech community-driven show. It is a show for technicians, for computer repair shops, managed service providers, men in their vans, anybody providing business technical support. And we talk with other technicians, other business owners, vendors in the community, doing everything we can to make your business better, smarter, and faster in supporting your business clients. I'm joined for part 2 by Stan Louissaint and Chad Kempt. And gentlemen, everybody have fun since the last show?
Oh, it's been great.
100%, 100%. I've come down a little bit.
I'd riled myself up more. I went and, got it all in the mirror. I was getting, getting
Did
pumped
you,
up.
did you go get some ice cream and calm down and get into the happy place and all of that?
I was going to do that, but then there wasn't any ice cream, so I was kind of, went the other
I did
direction.
have ice cream and apple pie earlier.
All right.
So good.
So let's just do a quick recap. So on the first part of the show, we started with what I thought was going to be a very interesting discussion where I just simply brought up the subject of Datto going public and what that meant, and just was basically meant to be a news story, and it turned into a whole out discussion. Now, I did kind of prep my guests with the idea that I was toying with the idea of possibly moving away from Datto. I use Datto for their BDR appliances, and I just switched over some of my lower end clients where I had open mesh Wi-Fi devices, and I moved them into the Datto networking portal. I've not moved anything else over there. I have been with SolarWinds for many years, so I've not moved into their RMM PSA product, although they have called and asked me to consider that. But I'm looking at a couple of situations where some of the higher end Datto appliances, I'm looking at some possible alternatives to consider for some of my clients. And for most of the backup products, if they can't be on a Datto, I have backup inside of my SolarWinds panel that will give them the cloud backup with a local speed vault if we need to. So I'm not worried about those things. For most of my customers that have a lower end server where an Alto will suffice, it makes no sense for me to move. So I'm not really considering it from that standpoint. The Datto appliances have been great. The backup solution has been great. However, for the higher end Cirrus, where we have terabytes of data, it might be something to look at, because here's where I was going to get at to talk to you guys about. So I've got customers who, when their term is up, and I've got several that I did 3-year terms with, and they offer the upgrade to a new appliance, has worked out great, because for the most part, the credit that they get usually gets them an almost free new appliance where we upgrade to a larger appliance, more storage. However, the storage price has doubled in a lot of cases. So the customers kind of shake their heads at that. But the higher end law firms that need their data protected, they understand that with better backups comes a higher price. I've got some clients that are looking at it with, well, we've heard that we can get similar, not necessarily the same, but as much as what they need for a lot less price. So I've been looking at a couple of solutions. I've not made a switch. I've not made a determination. And I'm not going to hide the fact of who I've talked to. I've talked with Servosity, who was somebody that I interviewed on the show for something else, and they piqued my interest. And I've talked with Axient. Those are the only two that I've actually set up an appliance and worked with to see if I like it. To be honest, I still like Datto better, but these are things to look at. And I am probably going to do a whole Datto versus the world tour and go through a lot of other products and take a look at Acronis or Veeam or some of the others out there. So wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that.
Well, I know you're talking about larger appliances. My largest one out there is a 120 terabyte, and that client thinks it's cheap. I have lots that are over 36 terabyte, 48 terabyte, same thing. Those clients think it's a good value compared to stuff in the space. I think a big problem we run into is what's in the space.
Okay.
So you were mentioning, looking at comparable things. You use SonicWall still, right? I believe, Marvin?
Yes.
SonicWall?
Yes.
So do you know that you could get a Linksys router with Trend Micro internet security built into it, and you could do web filtering right on a Linksys for $150?
If you want to call it that.
Well, I'm just saying. Well, see, and that's how I feel about a lot of the other backup solutions. My point is that it's similar, right? It routes traffic, it inspects, does web page blocking, it does these things, but it's not really the same. The big one, like I'll be honest with you, Veeam is the #1 competitor I come up against when I'm dealing with Datto in the larger space. And the argument is really simple. And when I talk to other MSPs, I tell them the same thing. With Datto, again, usually I'm talking about scalability because we usually larger MSPs, but I tell them that, my office manager does file restores. You can have all your level 1 techs deal with this stuff. It's super simple. When you're dealing with Veeam, you need guys like Stan and, guys like Marvin to be able to manage it, and it doesn't scale well. You need, just for basic tasks, you need technical people. That said, the solution's great and works well. It also doesn't scale down well. You need to have proper virtual environments for Veeam. They do have before somebody, writes me some hate mail and tells me they do have a physical agent and everything. I don't think we're going to make the argument that you get the same experience on a Veeam physical agent that you do on a Veeam, virtual thing with your application proxies and everything like that. So, I mean, it's a cost. There's a human capital cost, and Datto eliminates a lot of that. And I know Stan's point was about the support side, but unless somebody can prove to me that, Veeam is going to do the same amount or more, and I don't believe they will, then I'm going to maintain that, that support is there. It's flat rate. When we looked at unit trends, and this is going back about 6 to 12 months. So if they changed in the last 6 to 12 months, please don't roast me for this, but you had to buy all your stuff a la carte. And they position it as a flexible offering, and you only need to buy what you need. And I understand that, but it makes it a lot more difficult to spec out and sell these solutions when I got to figure out how much compute time I'm going to need in the cloud, and how much, what I'm going to need on the device, and how much. It was with Datto, it's X and Y, and that's it, done. I hear this complained about Azure a lot. Azure is a great platform, but it's confusing as heck to try and figure out how to price something out. And, there's a lot of other alternatives that are a lot simpler and easier to price out. I do not believe for 1 second that Azure is the Datto of the, infrastructure as a service cloud. I believe that Datto is that Azure is more of a Veeam, if you will. It's a, great solution, very complex, build it yourself.
But you love Azure, don't you?
I do like Azure, but that's only because I haven't seen any Datto. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't trust a lot of the small shops to stick around, and it terrifies me, frankly, to consider putting my client's data somewhere where I don't know if it's going to be there next year. We've seen a bunch of these things with the midnight notices saying, get your crap out of our data center. Datto, I trust to be there. Microsoft, I trust to be there. I used cab.io for a bit, and theirs was a lot different, but I don't want to go off on a tangent with that. But my point with the backup vendors is that, yeah, there are other ones that work well, but I don't think the ones that are less expensive and similar are at the same level. But they do deliver a service. I know lots of people who are happy with the what was the one Axion has? What was it called before that? Replibit.
Yeah, and it's now called Recover 360 or something like that.
And
but
I know some people that are
the same product.
I know some people that are happy with that, but my understanding is it takes a lot more work to manage that than it does to manage Datto, and the support's not quite at the same level. But that's not personal experience; that's secondhand.
You talked about scale, so I mean, you say you had some clients that are 120 terabytes, right? Isn't the situation that when you start to get over that and start to get to petabytes, you start looking at, your Dell EMC stuff, your Exagrid and your HP Store One and all that. I mean, it's just a whole different space. I mean, I don't know how many people, and I guess you can do it based on body count. Would you consider 120 terabytes to be small business, right? Because I mean, it's safe to say that Datto plays in small business space, right?
Yeah. So we found opportunity though, like that particular client's around I think 1,100 users, and that particular client, the thing they like about it is they have a 3-par SAN. I think that's right up your alley, right? All flash. I think they spent over $1 million on it, and they can replicate to an additional one, and they can do that. But they said they like the idea of having not all their eggs in one basket. So they back up to the Datto, and they're on the Infinite Cloud, and they're currently storing a couple hundred terabytes in the cloud. Last time I checked, I was at around 600 or so terabytes in the cloud, but that goes up fast because a lot of these guys, they just continue to scale up. They'll cut the retention low on the device, and then they'll just take advantage of the cloud, and they think it's cheap. You know what a second 3-par SAN with licensing would be? Whew, a lot more than that Datto with Infinite Cloud per year. It's not even close.
Well, let me ask you this question. And sorry, Marv, I'm going to jump in on this because I'm curious, right? So you got all these big devices out there. 120. I mean, the goal is that the environment never fails, right? If they had a second 3-par sand, what would happen is that they have the ability to never be down. So have you been in a situation with one of these kind of clients, 120 terabytes or some huge data that they actually have to fail over to?
Yeah, so usually it's not the whole environment. Usually with that, it's localized. So it's basically the way we've mapped out their DR plan, because these guys actually do think about DR plans. That's actually a conversation. Basically, what it is usually like a screwed up patch, vendor line of business app patch blows the thing up or whatever. In some cases, they can just snapshot it, but we get all kinds of weird ones where there's physical appliances or strange stuff. So they run it off of the data and they virtualize it back. The DR plan is really, okay, the building burned down. We're now going to virtualize the whole thing in the data cloud. And then we're going to do a reverse. We're going to do a, what do you call it? They're going to send out the data and then we're going to reverse round trip it all and rebuild the thing. That's the DR plan with that. But that is building has burned down. And again, data offers unlimited compute in the cloud. So no matter how much, yeah, you're right. You can't take this 120 terabyte device or even a 100 terabyte device. You can't take that and virtualize that entire environment on that device. It's just not possible. It has 512 gigs of RAM and it's got 2 ZFS arrays and blah, blah, blah. But you're really not going to get the whole thing. So what you're going to do is you're going to virtualize all the critical stuff. But in the cloud, there's no limit. You can virtualize the whole thing. You can replicate that whole environment. And I don't know if you guys had to test it, but they've done a lot more on the UI. So you as the MSP can actually build out a lot more of the site-to-site VPN and the client-to-site VPN without needing to engage support, which Stan likes because then he doesn't have to talk to Joe.
Oh yeah, and dude, that's my thing. It's not about I know we're getting hot and heated, but all I'm saying is there's room for improvement. And the point is, if any vendor creates a situation, and I'll give you, like I said, I'm using silly vendors, but a proof point or even Azure, as much as where I don't have to actually interact with anybody and I can do what I need to do absent that, that's the home run for me. That's
you're
my
not,
home run.
you don't fit the mold, right?
I've been doing that my whole life, so that's fine. But what I'm saying to you is, if I can do that, and I'm not saying, look, support can do what they need to do, but to your point, if Datto starts to spend some more money in R&D or building up their back end to where support, like I said, for me, it's always been calling support because something that was supposed to work as intended doesn't work, right? So I'm not talking about that offshoot where it's like, wait, I didn't do what I'm supposed to do and something isn't working. I'm talking about I followed all the steps. It's the same thing with people with like software raid, right? And I don't know if that's still an issue. Like, oh, you got software raid? Can't just restore. It's a whole big thing,
But
so that's all I'm talking about.
See, but that sort of stuff is what I'm talking about standardizing on a product and understanding it really well and knowing the limitations. Like, I can tell you off the top of my head all stuff like that. I can also tell you the issues we have with different agent versions, but I can also tell you all the workarounds. And if I had like 3 or 4 different solutions, I probably wouldn't be able to keep track of all that. It's too much. So, okay, here's the thing. I met a Datto partner once that actually couldn't install he could install an agent, but he couldn't actually add an agent to a Datto. He couldn't prep the server with the proper steps and add things. He expected Datto to do it. He expected to call Datto and have support do that. And that is the problem. The problem is that you are over, I can't see my hand. You're over here, and this other guy, he's over here. You are so far from, now he's not the average Datto partner. I'm not implying that either. But you guys are both the opposite ends of the spectrum, and then there's a bunch of guys in the middle somewhere. So,
but here's the deal, though. Here's the deal. If that is the problem, if the scales have shifted that much, that there are, granted, I know that there are a lot of people that say, look, I pay a ton of money, they should do it. Okay. I don't like that model. Now, I like for that type of model to back me up, so that if I can't do it, I can call them and say, hey, I need you to do this. Can you do this for me? And they do it. But if the scales have shifted that too many people are calling in and can't do the basic things, then there needs to be a way for people like me and Stan and you to get past that without having, to run triage through level 1 and without having to know the key phrase or, to have the direct line to Rob Ray.
The argument on that though is that if you're as good as Stan, you should have enough devices to be a blue partner. And I get it. It's like, I don't know. That's the thing, because once you're a blue partner, you do have a direct line. In fact, our guy, what he does is he watches our devices, and if we have a hard drive failure, he just asks us where he's shipping the drive to, and then he does it for us. It's
all right, so there you go, Stan. The answer is you got to be a blue partner.
Yeah, and like I said, which I already knew that's the answer, but like I said to Chad, nothing makes me want to sell more if I feel like I'm getting treated a certain way, right? So that's where my thing lies. I'm not one of these people who believes that if you get treated like crap, you just keep going back for more, right? So no, and by the way, guys, we are literally in the same business. We're in the same business that Dado is in. So we can all relate this to our own clients and how we deal with them. And Chad, since you are the guy with the bigger shop, let me give you the example. Your client calls in, they're talking to your level 1 guy. Your level 1 guy doesn't know how to solve the problem. He or she keeps trying to solve the problem. They don't do it. The problem goes on for 2-3 days, right? Mm-hmm. Then they go, then what they were supposed to know, how to bypass the support at fastcomputers.com and then email your level 3 guy and tell your level 3 guy to solve their problem. Your level 3 guy solves their problem in 10 minutes, but the problem's been an issue for 2-3 days, right? And then Chad expects to keep this business going. When that person sits down with you at the QBR and says, dude, your level 1 sucks. They didn't know to escalate me to level 3. Instead, they kept trying to fix it, and they didn't, right? And now we lost 2 days on it. But wait, client, you were supposed to know if our level 1 didn't do it, to use this backdoor email to get the level. It's the same thing.
That is what they do. I end up getting copied, or they basically copy their account manager, which is me. And then they go, hey man, this isn't getting fixed fast enough. My people need to work. And then we bump it to somebody else. And yeah, I have had people who won't do that. And then, yeah, you lose them. And that does suck. And that is something that I know, Marvin, I know you had some people at one point, and I know, Stan, you have contractors, but you generally don't employ level 1 contractors, I assume. And you guys, like I said, I think Marvin can probably relate a little better. It sucks. It does. It sucks when you have to put your name on something that isn't at the level you would expect it to be at. But that's part of scaling. And
it is. And to your point, yes, I've had that situation where, I have texts and I send them out, and the customer's like, I don't want to deal with this guy. Yep. Can you just come out? No, I can't. Yep. I can't be in multiple places at the same time. I can't work on multiple customers at the same time. In order to support the number of people, I've got to have staff. And that, so yeah, I can understand where Dado's position is. They probably don't have enough.
No, the problem is too, like when I look at my company, what I do to fix that is I try to set everyone up to not fail. So if I have a guy who's weak at networking, I don't send him to go to networking stuff. I have someone with poor social skills, I don't send him to the customer who's really sensitive about stuff. But Dado, they hire more people than my entire company for one hire for level 1 techs. Like they bring in 10 or 15 people in one shot. I have trouble getting one good person. I can only imagine what it's like to hire like that.
Okay, but look, we're still not admitting this. You can have all the problems you want to have, but you're still trying to collect money from me for a service and deliver it. So you're trying to tell me that because they hire so many new people, or any vendor, by the way, this applies to any vendor, and by the way, this applies to us as well, right? I cannot go to my client and say, well, I know I charge you a premium, but I just hired 50 new people. And even though we tried to hire the best, maybe they're not the best. And by the way, maybe our training program can use some work, but I need you to keep paying me anyway and not go. That's what you're saying.
So on that note, so this is the thing. So you mentioned earlier backups that weren't happening for 3 weeks. Let's just say 2 weeks to make it easy. If I had backups that weren't happening for 2 weeks and it was a legit case, I would go to my partner success manager and I would say, yo dog, I paid for a service I didn't get and I would expect a credit. And I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. And yeah, you could argue it shouldn't have happened in the first place, but my whole thing with Datto, if I can get one point across to you guys about this, it's not that they don't fuck up, okay? It's not that at all. You need to, yeah, no, I'm going there. It's not that they don't. It's how they respond when they do that I find differentiates them from the competition. And I don't mean the competition in the backup space. I mean in the channel in general. I find their willingness to accept feedback. I gave you guys the example of how they get partners involved in the training. All these things they do. If you have problems, you tell them about it. I mean, they listen. Yes, some people have a platform to get the opinion across better than others, but everybody I know who has that platform all tries to gather the feedback and the issues from others that don't in order to push it. And I've seen results. Not always what I want, not always. But generally, and one more thing about your what you pay versus the higher tier level. Datto has taken an interesting approach. Most vendors, Podnutz included, rewards partners with bigger discounts. So what you end up with is, you got a silver partner versus a platinum partner. Platinum partner's got a 10-point spread over the silver partner on standard pricing. And if that platinum partner feels like giving things away at 5 or 6 points, then they're actually going to sell it lower than distribution. You see it with SonicWall, you see it with Podnutz. Datto doesn't do that. I know they kind of changed that stance a little on the SaaS product, but they don't do that on the BCDR product. I pay the same thing as you guys. I just get some perks like some help on the support side. So I personally have always thought that was a better strategy. But if you disagree, I mean, that's perfectly.
Well, look, and just because we were talking about vendors, I'm just going to mention another vendor. I know somebody who spends 10 grand a month, who he feels it's a lot of money, with Continuum, and he feels that Continuum has gone downhill. I've never used a Continuum product. I don't know, right? And he goes, well, I'm going to start shifting my money elsewhere, and he's emailed them that. And guess what? They don't care, because I've let him know that no matter what, whatever he thinks he's doing with them, and how 10 grand is a lot for him and it's 120K a year, it's obviously not enough to make the vendor care.
No.
And that's all I'm saying is at the end of the day, and I've taken, and we talk about small shops, right? Marvin, myself versus you in terms of this call. Guess what? I just grabbed an account that had 2 big IT firms before me because he felt that bigger was better. But now he's realized that bigger is not better, because he can't ever, with all the bureaucracy that exists in a bigger company, he can't get his issues resolved, and his staff is, and the point is he's getting better service here, and he's extremely happy, and he wishes he went with me the first time. So all I'm saying at the end of the day is, there's different ways to do things. You're right. And if my money isn't important to you, then that's fine. But now what I'm saying to you folks is, Datto is now a public company. Every dollar matters in income. And if they don't come to terms with that, their public success, in my opinion, won't be what they intend it to be. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's very valid. That's very valid. One thing, I mean, this is off on a tangent a little bit, but I think it's really worth noting with what you were talking about being a smaller shop. I frequent some of these Facebook groups. I'm not going to name the groups, but they're groups that are aimed for technicians and things like that. And they're open in the sense that you don't have a membership fee or anything like that. You just, they do, I hope, check that you're at least an IT company, but they don't charge you anything. And so everybody is welcome in there. All the pizza delivery guys that Marvin you were talking about from CompTIA, right up to, the $50 million a year firms, they're welcome to join. And what I've noticed in there is that a lot of the ones that complain about, the Datto's calling them and the vendors calling them, then they have other posts where they're saying, I can't get any new clients. I don't know where to find clients. And it's like, yeah, it's annoying that Datto does that, but it works and it scales you. I do agree with what you're saying though, Stan, with the public dollars. Are they going to be as freely handing out the credits in the future when they have to do? I don't know. There's a lot of things we don't know. Are they going to, I know you mentioned earlier, you thought people were going to take a payout and take off. I believe Austin said that he gave equity to a lot of his employees early on. So there were probably people that made out pretty good when Vista got involved in the first place, and they didn't leave. At least not all of them left. And so maybe they won't leave. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a fortune teller. I mean, I I guess I'm sort of privy to some info because I'm on the board, but nothing that I'm not saying anything here that I would be violating an NDA on. And honestly, there's really nothing to say at this point about that. Time will tell, I guess, is basically the bottom line. But I do agree to a point. But I also would like to point out that, even with that shittier service, sorry, I guess this is the R-rated version of the show.
The after hours show.
The after hours show. The thing is that when you scale, one of my friends told me he actually just went back to being a one-man tech. I won't name who he is, but he got up to about 10 people at one point, and he said that he just couldn't do it. And what I mean by that is, or what he meant by that was he couldn't let go. He had to let go and let things happen that he was not happy with in order to scale up, and let those things happen while he focused on the bigger picture. And he said it just made him unhappy. So he's gone back to being, in control of the whole situation, all services delivered at the level that he expects, as I'm sure all your services, Stan, and I'm sure all your services, Marvin. And that's the thing. Me, yeah, I have important accounts, and then we have accounts, and then we have, I hope they stick around, but if they don't, that's unfortunate accounts. And that's, I wouldn't have those accounts if I was a one-man guy. I couldn't service them, whatever that's worth.
So let's take this a little bit in a different direction. And I want to thank Mr. Louissaint and Mr. Datto for their discussion on that topic.
And wait. I do want to just say, like I said, I think this issue that we talked about applies to vendors at large, not just Datto. We kind of use Datto as the picking.
Right.
We picked
That's
on
why I
them.
wanted to shift it. I wanted to shift it because we're going through that with other vendors in the channel as well, that I mentioned earlier in part 1 of this podcast. If you're just joining us late, that other vendors have gone through it where they've, been bought out and accumulated other companies and merged and acquisition, and all of a sudden things aren't what they used to be. And we have that issue in this channel right now, and everybody is trying to get bigger, we'll mention it. I will mention SolarWinds because I use SolarWinds, and I know a bunch of shops that literally have left SolarWinds the last time they got bought, when they went public, and when they raised their prices. And for me, with my less than 1,000 endpoints, actually I think I'm less than 500 now, because I fired that one company. It's something where to make the change for me wasn't worth the money that I would save. And when I did the numbers, I was going to save like $80 a month, because I was going to lose pieces that I would have to add on with switching to an RMM. And I know, there's a huge shift right now to switch to Synchro. Synchro is, but I did that comparison, and to add back in the AV, to add back in the web protection, to add back in the cloud backup for the ones that I have that aren't on Datto, $80 a month. Didn't make sense to me to switch. And I'm happy with the performance that I'm getting out of SolarWinds. And to Stan's point about, do I have to call support? I think I've called support once in 5 years.
SolarWinds support's actually really good, by the way. I can attest to that. I will say IT Glue is a good example. IT Glue got back by Kaseya. Yeah. We were, you guys know, it's you guys, I know you guys know, I don't know anyone listening knows, but I used Confluence for 7 years. We kind of built the wheel before there was a wheel. It was a beautiful thing. I switched to IT Glue recently because of mainly the OTP feature, and secondly, because I like being able to have a two-way sync. But the OTP feature, where we can have all our 2FA stuff audited for global admin passwords for Office 365, really pushed us over. Anyway, that's not my point. My point is, IT Glue was pushy with the sales before, but you ain't seen nothing. You ain't seen nothing now. I get people contacting me to buy IT Glue when I'm actually a paying customer now. Yeah. I also get my account manager, who's a Kaseya account manager, who keeps trying to get me on the call with a VP so he can show me the 21 other products they have. And then if I say anything during the call, like I think I mentioned that I use Passport, starts going on about their Passly and how great Passly is. And I'm not saying he shouldn't do his job, but you want to talk about like aggressive, like it's everybody. And I liked it, full disclosure, I liked the channel a lot better when it was a conglomerate of small companies like Small Datto, Austin's Datto, and when it was, Passportal was, Dan and the guys, and, IT Glue. I liked when it was like that, but that's just not reality. We're seeing serious consolidation.
So let me ask this question. Have you guys seen more of a sales pitch since COVID hit? Or was it that way before? Because I feel like it was that way before.
It was that way before. Yeah, definitely that way before.
But it was like doubled down now because in the last 6 months, there's been a drop. And I don't know what the percentage point is. We can ask Jay McBain at Forrester to see what the drop off is. But I'm thinking, I didn't drop off.
I think less. I think less. I was getting more before. Like I found by attending the conferences and the shows in person, I think I looked like a target that was worth more time than just the guy who signs up for a webinar now. They seem to go away a little easier at this point.
I don't know. I'm still getting calls now. Granted, I may get those calls because I'm kind of in that in between spot, where I have enough endpoints that I'm not a, trunk slammer. Let's get him at the upswing of his MSP. He's gonna, balloon to 5,000 endpoints soon.
When you said you use the SolarWinds RMM product, right? Not N-Central. You're on the what Backdog Focus Logic. Yeah, I remember when they put in that $50 platform fee. My rep at the time, he what do you call it? My rep at the time, he was like, yeah, we need to get rid of some people. He just straight up said that. He's like, I got one account. He's like, he has 3 computers, his mom's, his sister's, and his grandma's. And he calls up and they have like a list of tickets with him opening tickets and asking for support. Like it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
I believe it.
But this is, like, so I will say this to Marvin's point and both of you guys, right? Who only do, who are talking about like how it used to be. Reality is that's the beauty of the world. Is I think that there's always new companies coming up. There's small companies all the time, right? You're going to always have that. Now the question is, I believe this. I think the difference that we're talking about, and anybody here, correct me if I'm wrong, is although that these companies were small and have scaled, we haven't necessarily, at least on this podcast, right? The 3 of us haven't scaled with those companies, right? Chad, you remember, like you said, the Austin small company and the small peer groups and this and that. Well, at the end of the day, you didn't scale alongside Datto or some of these other entities, right?
I know guys who did though.
I was going to tell you. So, and in my opinion, those people may have a different relationship with those companies than what we're talking about, right?
Well, let me ask this question. So, do you think there is a trend right now or some sort of thing where there is a threshold that in order to be in this industry, there is a group of people that look at companies like us and say, in order to be considered, you need to have X. And whether that is you need to be $1 million MSP or you're considered a trunk slammer.
Yeah, I think if you're under $1 million a year in revenue at this point, you're probably considered a trunk slammer.
I mean,
and that's not me being disrespectful to you guys or anybody listening. I'm just, from a vendor standpoint, I think that's probably the break even. And your acquisition, you won't, like, from what I've heard about like actual serious acquisitions, they want more like 3 to 5 million, and then they're more talking you're a B2W being like,
okay.
Yeah. I'm not going to disagree with Chad in that regard. But I'll say this, and I think we all have seen the stats. Once again, more MSPs are probably under $1 million than over, right? So
the stats prove that, and it doesn't mean you can't. Also, I want to be very clear here. Just because if your MSP does 150K a year of pretty much service project revenue, and you're feeding your family and you're living the good life, don't let me. I said nothing to put you down. Like, you go. I'm saying that if you're out there in the with the big fish in the pond and you're talking to vendors and stuff, who thinks that you're an actual business, an MSP, actual MSP, not one that says, I'm saying that's sort of the barrier, and that's just a rough number.
So here's the point I was getting to. So for companies like me who are in between, and the reason I say that is because I will legitimately say that there was a point where I was $4,000 away from hitting 500K. Okay. Not, that's not small money to me, but I know to a lot of people it is. And the point is I'm legitimately trying to service business clients. I have law firms and I have, it's not like I have, 1,000, one person shops. I mean, I've got, clients with 100, I've got clients with 40, I've got servers on prem, I've got all this stuff. So in terms of where the industry is going, if they're trying to phase out the under a million MSP, where does that leave us in terms of
consulting? I think the problem here is, okay, and I have a bit of a pet peeve, and it drives me nuts. People say I switched to MSPs, or they use MSP like people saying NIC card, where it's like, no, it is not a NIC card. It is a NIC. It is a network interface card, and it is a managed service provider. And a lot of people say that like they hear it's a buzzword and it's what they want to do, but they're not actually delivering. What I talked about earlier about standardizing your stack and scaling, that an MSP is built on operational efficiency. If you can't deliver operational efficiency, and that's where the scale and everything else comes in, you're not an MSP. You're a guy who charges for recurring revenue, which is totally fine. But I think that there's a huge market for consulting and for doing, working with clients to improve their business and working on improving their business processes. You don't need to be a MSP by industry definition for that.
Well, there was a long time where I didn't want to say I was an MSP because I'm like, I'm not. I don't want to be considered that. But I get thrown in there because I'm using MSP-like products, and it's kind of a hybrid scenario. So
have you seen the guys calling themselves MSSPs now? And it's like, what do you do? Oh, you install Sentinel-1? You're an MSSP?
That was the guy that did the assessment at Marvin's Calling.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
We have a certified ethical hacker on staff, and we have an NSE7, which is a network security architect on the Podnutz stack, among other things. But if you want certifications, yeah, sure. But the thing is that I thought about using that designation at one point and trying to promote it. I'm like, wait a second. We operate a NOC here, not a SOC. And for everyone listening, if you're not sure the difference, let me tell you. User calls up and goes, hey, I have a problem. I need help. And Marvin, with his NOC, goes, oh, Mr. Customer, how are the kids? Let me help you. No problem. A SOC goes, you're who? What makes you think you can prove to me you're that person? I'm not sure. Prove it. And that's horrible customer service, but that's how a security operations center is going to operate. And that's not what we're doing. So we're not an MSSP. We have cybersecurity services we offer. We're not an MSSP.
All right. So back to my question. Do you think that there will be a point in time in the near future where there will be a differentiator in the channel where companies like myself, who are in between, won't be able to get services that we're getting now? Will we get turned away from the Dattos and the SolarWinds and the Continuums? And
no, because of cloud, the barrier to entry has gotten very low. So you can continue doing whatever you want. I don't think that'll be a problem. Will you get the level of service you would get if you had the volume? Will you get the pricing discount? No. But can you operate? Absolutely. Look back. Do you know anybody from 2005, 2006 that started an MSP then? I had friends writing checks for over $100,000 for Kaseya.
Yeah.
Imagine that now. Imagine someone saying, yeah, I got my new RMM. I bought 1,000 seats. I spent $105,000. People would be like, what are you saying? So no.
Yeah, my buddy that I had the show on a while back on my first peer group, he was an early adopter of Kaseya, and he spent a ton of money to get in. But I guess the question I was asking is because we talked about the Facebook groups earlier. We talked about how, there's a lot of people in there complaining, and a lot of them are, let's just say, less than 100K. Who?
That's fine.
I mean, and that's the thing is, where do we draw the line of saying, well, you really don't have the business model for being an IT provider?
No, my problem with those guys, okay, and yeah, to those of you listening that are in that group, if you're not carrying proper insurance, if you're leaving your customers vulnerable and making them believe you're providing the same service as somebody who actually is offering, that full, and I'm not talking about size of the company, you Stan, even you, Marvin, that actually have a fleshed out service and actually answer the phone during the day because they're not at their 9 to 5. You're doing a disservice. I know somebody who got sued last year, and their insurance covered it, but now they're dropped. Nobody will insure them. You can't get insurance. So that's an interesting predicament to be in. But if you didn't have the insurance in the first place, I think it was close to $1 million. He would have had to come up with out of pocket. So I don't know what that would do to you.
So check this out. I want to tie something in because of course I couldn't help myself but look at some info on this. Like I said, I'm picking on Datto just because I have this information. So Datto says that the stats are, and this was an article on the channel E2E, right? Was that Datto services 17,000 MSPs, right? Mm-hmm. So I want you guys to think about that. Of the 17,000, only about 1,000 of those MSPs generate more than 100,000 or more in annual recurring revenue for Datto.
Yep.
So Marv. So
$100,000 a year for Datto is a lot different than $100,000 a year MSP.
No. I understand, but what I'm saying is this still goes hand in hand, in my opinion, with what Marv's question was, and also your response, Chad, of the small guy or the small company, small girl, whatever, is not going away from these vendors servicing them, because I do believe that we have way more small people than not, right? So like I said, so if you're saying that roughly 1,000, I mean, what's the stat on that, right? That 17,000 and what is it? 1,100, right? Divide by 7, right? That small group is what I consider maybe the bulk of their revenue. I'm sure, and it's a subset of the group that really brings in the bigger numbers, right? Overall for them. But the point is that trend is probably the same across all companies. So like you said, Chad, if the barrier of entry to low, it's easy. I can go on and sign up, and then I generate some income for this company, and maybe my interaction is low with them, but they still get to bang my credit card every month. There's no reason to shy away from that. The same way you don't shy away from people that are just on your monitoring plan. Yep,
100%. That's why they're there. 100%. You know what? An extra couple $100 a month in revenue, in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to move the needle on my P&L. But I mean, it's a couple $100 a month. I mean, and again, I mean, if I was the small guy on the panel and I was sitting with the big guys, they would tell me I'm wasting my time and ditching low revenue is going to increase my overall revenue. I understand the argument. You guys know the chocolate cake theory. I'm sure I've told it to you both.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I say my bakery sells ingredients as well as chocolate cake. We bake a mean chocolate cake, but we are happy to sell you ingredients if you are a home baker and you would like to do some baking on your own. We have the finest ingredients.
So, Stan, was that a recent report?
No, it just happened. This is all part of because Datto had to release all their financials. Here, I posted in the the chat here. So it's on a channel. It was posted today, the 21st. It was posted today. Because they were talking about the IPO, but in there,
that partner count sounds right to me. That was about what it was last time I was told.
Yeah, so it's this is the beauty of all this, at least in my opinion, that this stuff is going to predominantly become public now, and we'll kind of have more access to it, I guess, in some capacity. But at least that when they do earnings calls and stuff. But the point is, like, if they so what is it? 100. Like I said, I just think it goes to the fact that most MSPs or like you guys said, MSP is the umbrella term. So over $8,000 a month, right? Over $8,300 a month. Only 1,000 of their MSPs do $8,300 or more per month in recurring services with them.
But I don't think that's. But the thing is,
I'm not one of those guys.
Like the thing is,
I don't meet the criteria. I'm just telling you, right? So.
The thing is, with those numbers though, like you guys were talking earlier, just because it's not a good idea to have a bunch of different vendors doesn't mean nobody does. And as I told you, that one shop that I lost that deal to, they have tons of devices under 10 terabytes. Just they don't sell any over that. It's a lot easier, you realize, selling 48 terabyte, 60 terabyte, 120 terabyte devices to hit the numbers, than if I was selling 500 gig or what are they now, 1 terabyte minimum. All I did was sell S4X1s. That was the only device I sold. I'd have to sell quite a few to be in the club, right?
Yeah, I mean it's $79 an agent or something, right?
Yeah, and then when you flip over to the SaaS side, same thing. I mean, I got around 5,000 seats on SaaS, but even that doesn't get you anywhere near.
You got to sell 100 of them a month to be in the club, so 100 Alto 3s.
100 Alto.
100 Alto 3s. But they're still saying that, like, look, we're going with the state that there are 100, and like I said, I'm using these numbers because I think it's just good for what we're talking about. So they're saying there's 125,000 MSPs worldwide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, and they have access now to 17,000 of them.
Yep.
So that still leaves plenty of room for growth. And like you folks said, what describes that MSP? Marv, just hold tight. I know Chad said it. Guys like you and me aren't going away. I do think that although the industry will always will look to consolidate, if that makes any sense, I don't think the end users care about that. And we do have the same issue of the mechanic and the trunk. So however you want to say it, hey, I can fix your computer. Oh, you can fix my computer? Yes. Or come fix my computer. Nobody asks a lot of questions, and they actually find out if you're great or not. Hey, you fixed my friend's computer. My friend said you're great, so you're going to come fix mine. So, you're always going to have that. And people are going to go through this transition. And I know we used to talk about it with certain trade shows, that you get this influx of people that come in that feel like new people, like they're green, and the rest of us are kind of coaching them along and kind of teaching them the ways and kind of how to standardize and do these things. And I think that that's just going to always happen, that in our industry, reality is all you got to be able to do for a lot of small businesses is for someone else to say that you can fix a problem, or for you to tell somebody or convince them that you can fix a problem, and they'll give you a shot.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like I said, my biggest issue with the really small guys is when they're not fixing people's stuff, not doing consulting, not doing projects. That's all great. It's when they're saying they're offering like 24/7, 365 monitoring and security and all this stuff, but they're not delivering it. I'm not saying they all don't deliver it. I'm just saying a lot of them don't deliver it, and that's a problem. And the insurance. I don't know how, if you're doing $40,000 a year in revenue, how are you paying for proper E&O, insurance, and cybersecurity, like all that stuff? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, you're not, but like I said, but I think, look, I know somebody who's starting a business. I forgot what they're doing, but the whole point is that in their business, they have to go through some level of regulation, and they're opting not to because they're like, well, I don't have money to do that yet, so I'm going to kind of do this on the back burner, and then when I get there, I'll get what I need. Look, but Chad, we're not going to stop that. If a client doesn't ask that person the right questions and they give them the business, and by the way, you as this business owner, if you want to take on that kind of liability, that's on you, dude. You want to lose your house, you want to lose your car, you want to lose your life savings, then go for it.
They could. It's a matter of, you can't be a surgeon unless you're an actual surgeon. You can't practice law if you don't pass the bar, but you can take care of a cybersecurity and guarantee someone's information isn't leaking out to the web if you didn't graduate high school and you just say you're an IT guy. And I don't know. I'm not saying, it's not about a degree.
So are we at that conversation of which has come up 100 times before, Marvin? I'm sure you're aware, right? And so are you, Chad. Is what should we have as an industry standard to be in the industry? I mean, look, I don't care if you do have every level of credentials. I actually said this to somebody today. Nobody in this business can guarantee that you will not be breached.
No, that's true. That's true. Because you can't be responsible for 0 days that you don't know about yet.
So it doesn't matter, dude. You can have all the credentials in the world. It's like the SonicWall SSL VPN issue, right? If SonicWall doesn't do what they're supposed to do, then what am I supposed to do? I'm just implementing the tools that I have to my disposal, right? So
here's where the negligence comes in. Okay, that disclosure came out. How quickly did you fix it? If this is a side gig,
are you paying me to fix it, or are you not?
And that's the thing. Like, so for our fully managed clients, that's not optional. It's all fixed. For the clients who don't or aren't fully managed, yeah, you're right. Whatever. But I
Well,
mean,
I
that's
don't have that problem because I use Meraki and it updates itself. So
yeah. I wouldn't want Fortinet to do that. That would be very bad.
yeah, it's because you don't trust your vendor. I trust mine.
No, well, or beta testers. We're actually alpha. They offer us the option of being alpha or beta. Those are your options.
Yeah. You're beta, all right.
All right. So before you guys run off on another tangent.
No, we're not. It's 2 hours. I got dinner in front of me. I need to eat.
Yeah. So,
you know,
but to answer your question or your comments that you mentioned earlier, Chad, about, if you're not doing X and Y, some of the reasons that I've gotten my business, and I don't have a ton of clients. I've got a handful that I take really good care of. And one of the reasons that, I don't really need to grow and scale at the speed that others want me to. But a lot of them have been surprised when they've compared my service against an MSP, let's just say of your size, in terms of here, because there are a lot of MSPs your size who are not doing what they should and who claim to provide 24/7 support when all they're doing is providing 24/7 monitoring, the same as I'm doing in my SolarWinds panel. And if somebody calls their office after hours, it goes to an answering service, which may or may not get to a technician, which is basically the same as me. If it goes to the voicemail, I get the voicemail and I'll decide to call back. So in a lot of ways, that's really not that difference in terms of 24/7 support, because all of my clients, I've got a key to where if their server's down at 11 p.m. and I get an alert, if I can't reboot it or do it remotely, I'm going to their office at 11 p.m. to get it up. A lot of others won't do that, no matter how big they are. They send an email. I had an MSP tell me that if a customer sends an email after hour, it won't even be looked at until the next day. But yet they claim to have 24/7 monitoring.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. We're very clear with that. Like, no, you're going to get a reply first thing in the morning. We do keep an eye on them. And like I said earlier when we were talking about that in part one of the show, if they agree to pay, yeah. But the thing is that most of the issues are inconveniencing issues and not system down issues. And, to pay $600 for us to pick up the phone and go, click XYZ doesn't make any sense for anybody and just results.
Why not? But this is what I'm saying. I say this to people all the time, Chad. It is not up to you to make that decision. It's up to them to make it. See, you're thinking about what you would pay or not, or what you would be pissed off about. My thing is, if the client wants us to talk to them and, like you said, reboot it, and they understand the terms because you've set them out clear, then it doesn't matter. I'm calling you.
And I do agree. Like, so pre-COVID, we have a couple. I try not to get bars and restaurants, but we have a couple. And we've had them call at 7 o'clock on a Friday night and be like, the main tail is dead, like the hard drive has died. Yeah, we're gonna go out. They're gonna get a bill for over $1,000 for us to rebuild the thing on site and get it running. But the amount of money they're gonna lose on that weekend of not having the main till working and waitresses trying to do math on a calculator and a pad of paper during a busy weekend is insane. So yes, the thing is, Stan, we have those conversations before they're upset is the thing. Because when they're upset, they then agree to anything, and then I have hurt feelings on the billing side where they argue about it. So what I do is I make sure that we have an understanding what's an emergency, what's going to constitute it, and that's all agreed ahead of time. So yes, we do bill them. It does happen, just not very often. And I don't, some of us would like to be on the people's court. Some of us would like to watch other people on the panel be on the people's court.
Listen.
Other people on the panel don't want to be on the people's court.
Listen, I got no problem. And by the way, in case you're wondering, I did win that case. It wasn't on people's court, but I did
really disappointed. I
did win. And wait, and the best part of that was when the guy. Well, first of all, I had two situations, but the one you're talking about is, and Marv, I'll share this with you. I don't know if I did. But this guy called for service. We did everything remotely. I told him what my first question is, how old is the computer? It was over 3 years old. I said, look, you're best to go replace it. Go to Apple, buy a new one, do what you need to do. He said, no, I want you to fix it. I said, this is the billing rate. I said, do you want to do it? He says, yes. We handle everything remotely. I think it took 3 or 4 hours. He gets the bill. He doesn't want to pay it. He's upset. You didn't spend this much time on my machine. We end up going to small claims court. He told the judge, this is like baking. He was probably doing other things and this and that. And the judge said, and he tried to use the example of a cook making a turkey. He says, well, when you're making a turkey, you're not watching it the whole time. So the judge looked at him and said, you're right. You're not watching it the whole time. But the cook is still on the clock to make sure that the kitchen doesn't burn down. And I had connection logs showing I was connected to his machine the whole time. And of course I won, and the guy came to the office, had to hand me the money in cash money. His hands were shaking the whole time, and he paid the bill. But the point is this, I told him not to do it. He wanted to do it, so he got a bill for it. He didn't want to pay the bill, so I had no problem going to the next level. I don't have any issues with enforcing any of my agreements. I have no issues enforcing what you and I agreed to. I'm very big on the principle as it comes to those things. So that's what it was. And Chad makes fun of me. And I had another client who tried to terminate an agreement that they were under early, and they had to shell out $12,000. In fact, I don't care.
I joke, and I fully respect Stan's opinion on that and the way he handles it. I would rather spend my time on other things. And I'm not saying that I'm right and you're wrong, or you're right and that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I'd rather just avoid it, and I'll just go make the money somewhere else, and it's good enough for me.
Yeah, but you're talking about avoiding it. What I'm saying is this isn't a problem that I bring to my front door. People bring it to my front door. So if you have one of your data clients that you're spending $120 a year with you, let's say, and they decide to stop paying their data bill tomorrow, and you're under, but you turn them off, but you're locked into an agreement with data. You tell me you're not going to go try to enforce your agreement.
I don't do that. That's bad. That's dumb. I don't do that. I do 1 year agreements with data at most, and then I do prepay with the customer, or I do, and then no. I don't do 3 or 5 year agreements with data. I did a long time ago. I used to do that. We have changed our risk management policy at our company. We do not do that. And yes, and we will turn them off. I don't have a problem with that. I try to avoid it because it's not really a good way to retain a customer by taking away their backups. But if we have to, if you don't pay, why am I delivering a service that you're not paying for?
Oh, by the way, you're talking about retaining clients. By the time I get to this point we're talking about, we're way past. This isn't about retention. This is about redemption, right?
We had a data client a long time ago with a 10 terabyte Cirrus One, and it's their credit card didn't go through. And I was like, what happened? And then I finally got a hold of my contact there, and he's like, oh, they locked the doors on us and canceled all the credit cards. They went bankrupt. Oh, thanks for letting me know. But I had canceled the device because, full disclosure, that was before they put in the 15th.
Yeah, you got to cancel by the 15th of the month, otherwise you're in trouble.
I'm not. But that's where your partner success manager comes in. If you have a business case, hi, my customer went bankrupt and locked out all their employees. That's a business case. That's what that is. That is a business case. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Let me
wrap it up, Uncle Marv. Wrap it up.
Let's move on to Chad's favorite part of the podcast. We're going to switch gears and go into our Florida Man versus the World segment. And I've got a couple to choose from, but let me ask, did you guys do your homework, and do you have a story to challenge Florida Man this week?
Well, I did until the whole squirrel thing, and then I just gave up. I just hit delete. I shut it down. You guys are going to smuggle flying squirrels? I'm done. I'm done.
And I wasn't going to use that one as the competition. But
that's the crazy part. I know. You don't need to. You have so many. You could do the Florida Man hourly trivia and win.
Yeah,
that's how this is.
But that was a great story. Let me pull that up real quick. Stan, are you like feverishly looking at something?
Yeah, I look, but we're not that exciting in New Jersey, so unfortunately, so I might have to divert to New York since it's 30 minutes away. Everything right now is all about everybody's focused on election and stuff, unfortunately. But I am feverishly typing away. That is a fact right now.
Right. So Chad, the story that Chad did not want to contend against is Florida officials have charged several people in a flying squirrel trafficking operation. So far, 7 people have been arrested and charged in a elaborate, organized enterprise to smuggle Florida's flying squirrels into the state and sell them. So 10. What?
You can't make this up. I couldn't make up a story this good.
So up to 10,000 traps were set to capture the flying squirrels. And so far, they've tracked over as many as 3,600 that were shipped overseas within 3 years to be sold as exotic pets for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Wow. Okay, you guys win.
So that is our story. That's not even the one I was going to choose.
What was the one you're going to choose? I want to hear it.
So here we go. So the one I was going to choose is one. Let me pull this up here. This story. So I had 2. Actually, you know what? Let me go back because those were old. Let me go into. Here we go. So
we're so boring. We're so boring here.
Oh, wait a minute. These are old stories. Why are these out of order? I apologize. I may have had to go with that story, but the one I was going to bring was Florida man brings neighbor's dead body to lawyer's office.
Not guilty.
A Florida man claims he killed his neighbor in self-defense, threw the victim's body in his truck, and drove to his lawyer's office because he didn't know who else to trust.
That's attorney-client privilege right there, I think. I don't know how that story got out.
Yeah.
If your lawyer won't get in the car with a shovel in the middle of the night and drive to a deserted dead-end road, he's not a good lawyer.
Yep. So that was what I was going to choose. And then there was another one with a Florida man having sex with a tree and then stabbing a law enforcement. But that was an old story too. I
don't think that one even makes the. No, I don't think that one even comes.
Yeah. I mean, the best thing I came up with is somebody was messing with the cops with a flamethrower. But I mean, that's like every day in Florida, so it's really nothing.
We got more blockades up here and people throwing rocks at police and stuff.
The story got told on our local news this morning. So in Naples, which is across Alligator Alley from me, the story reported today, Florida man accused of using Kool-Aid packet to steal nearly $1,000 in Walmart purchases.
Wow.
What? Yeah. My all-time favorite is still the Wendy's drive-through Alligator. That one still remains my favorite. I mean, I'm not saying there's not better ones out there. It just gives me a good feeling. That's
not the gentleman carrying the gator into the store with him.
He's number two. Number one, through the drive-through. Like, I mean, my your own business, working can I take your order? Next thing you know, here comes a freaking alligator. I don't know. Then again, it's Florida. Maybe they weren't even surprised. Maybe they were just like, hey, somebody grab this alligator, get it out of here.
Give this guy what he needs, right?
Give this guy what he needs.
All right, guys. I want to say thank you. That certainly did not go the way I had planned for the evening.
Welcome to planning things with me and Chad.
Yeah, that's
Chad and myself.
I hope it was good anyway.
Yeah, I'm not even going to write an outline next time. I'm just.
Yeah, I saw the outline. after we finished.
Did you even read it? You probably
I did. I mean, I read it today, like
threw it in the trash.
like what like when I got on.
I read it earlier, and I was like, "That's nice." I was like, "Look at Marvin trying to prepare for this." You know, I know that's how most of your things go, but
Yeah. Well, yeah. Most people.
I mean, this is the equivalent of us hanging out. So we're just
That's true.
we actually, in all fairness, we have to say this to everybody. The three of us have actually never hung out in person together.
No.
We hung out with each other individually, but never as a collective.
Me and Marvin only got together once, and it was for a really brief period of time on a very hot day.
It was about as much time as you could stand to be in a room of trunk sellers. That's what.
Yeah, I started itching. No, I'm just kidding, guys. Just kidding.
Yeah. And Stan was having a period of time where it was too hot to walk on the sand.
Yes. Yeah. Well, no. So I saw you twice though. When I came down to Florida, but the other time was at Chicago, right? Was at the ABA convention.
Marvin missed out riding the kids slide with us.
Yep. Yeah. Chad and I rode the kids slide down in Toronto. He's like the pool has the hotel has a great pool with a slide. We're like the two grown adults in there looking like two creepers, going through the slides, cutting the kids online. Chad and I.
We went to the pool and we're like, "There's no slide here. This adult pool's no good. Where's the good stuff?"
Where the kids pool? Yeah. Let's get out of here.
All right. So what you're saying is, at some point, we'll need a fourth to ride on a banana boat together. Is that what?
100%.
I can tell you this: that ain't happening.
Maybe we'll ride a gator down there in Florida.
You guys can be three lonely souls on a 4-man banana boat. I will not be there with you.
Oh man!
I'll be on the side of the pool with a BB gun shooting you guys down.
Awesome.
Listen. I know, Marvin. You're the guy at Disneyland looking for the Canadians in January, shooting us with those water cannons while we're coming down the water ride. Going, "What are these stupid Canadians in the?"
No, I'll just be on the bench watching you walk by and complaining every bit. It's so hot. Why is it so hot in Florida?
70 degrees here. Why is it? What is with the heat?
Oh yeah, amazing.
It'll be 70 degrees. We'll be in sweaters and hoodies, and you'll be in shorts. Oh, it's lovely weather today. With your pale legs.
Oh, sunlight. What is this?
You guys, man.
All right.
All right, guys. Thank you,
guys.
We'll sign off here. And for those of you that were able to make it through part 2 of this podcast, I have no idea what I'm going to name this, but I will come up with something good. I want to thank you thank you for downloading and subscribing to the show. You have been listening to what should have been the Podnutz Pro Tech Show. And basically a debate broke out. So we're going to have fun. And for those of you that I have spoken with at Dado, asking you to come on the show, I hope that you will still come on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot. I've been working so hard to get Dado on the podcast. Rob Ray's going to send a letter.
Rob's going to shoot me a text. I'm going to get yelled at.
So hopefully that will still happen. And I will continue my Dado versus the world conversation as we look at other contenders trying to pretend to compete with Dado for their BDR service. So Chad, Stan, thank you guys very much. We will be in contact again soon. Probably as soon as Rob texts you, Chad. Did that guy just call you Mr. Dado?
I have to tell him that Scully said that Rob would refer me Geek Squad people, which...
Oh, yes. So, all right. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for listening. And we'll be back soon with another great show and some more great tips and stories on how to run your IT business to help make your business better, stronger, and faster.